Hello, everyone. This is Andres Restart. I am joined by my friend Kiwi Talks. He has his own YouTube channel. You may know about him. He is not a leaker. He does interviews with developers throughout the industry, some of the best interviews. How you doing, man?
Good, man. Good intro. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Thanks for having me back, man. So
Yeah.
last time, we chatted for a bit, and obviously I didn't annoy you enough to not get called back for another round. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. It's pretty tough to annoy me. But even if you do, I might
That's good.
still be like, hey, well, I think I'm a glutton for punishment. So, but so for today, right? As people are kind of rolling to chat, we'll just, I don't know. I don't know what we're gonna talk about to start off, but we'll talk about something, right? But just to kind of let people know what the general plan for the evening. We're going to debate a little bit, friendly debate. I don't think Kiwi and I have any bad blood over anything, so it'll be hard for it to be anything but friendly. But
Not at all.
we're gonna debate a little bit about the theorized and rumored Ocarina of Time remake. Right, there's been a lot of talk about it for years, right? Especially now with Zelda's 40th anniversary next year, it's definitely heating up. Right, I think something's happening. I think you do think something's probably happening, but I think we have kind of a different opinion on what it's probably going to be. And so we're going to just kind of talk about the different angles and perspectives on it, and we'll see where we fall. And of course, everyone in the chat, share your own opinions on that. And so that's meant to be kind of like the main talking point for tonight. I wouldn't be shocked, though, if Metroid Prime 4 ends up dominating the conversation, because this game's coming out in December. And right now, I would say news surrounding Metroid has been more common and frequent than it ever has been or in a long time. So there's definitely have to talk about with that. I do kind of want to, we'll talk about the magazine scans for a little bit, because I think that'll be an interesting conversation. And yeah, whatever else comes up. So
Yeah, man. Hey, it's your show, bro. So you asked
I mean, if you want to bring up
I'll answer it.
something, you can bring up whatever you want too. So if there's something that's on your mind, you know what? If you have something, let's just do it now while we let people kind of flow in before we jump into the main topic.
I don't really have anything on my mind specifically. It's
Okay.
more so your show. You call the shots.
Sure.
I don't like revealing info unless I get asked, you see.
Oh, I'm not asking you to reveal info.
Oh no, but you might inevitably end up asking me something where I reveal info.
Oh, well, that's not my intention. Not my intention. If it happens, I mean, I guess great, but only if you can. So, yeah.
It depends on what it is. Yeah.
Sure. But yeah, let's just kind of talk a little bit about the Metroid Prime 4 situation with the Nintendo Dream magazine, right? If you guys didn't see my video on it today, I put out a video basically clarifying, or I mean, I think it's probably a proper clarification, because we have a decent amount of corroboration on it. We have new translations from the Nintendo Dream magazine that seem to be a lot more accurate. We had initial translations last week, and with the initial article, we didn't even see the scans. They started floating around like shortly afterwards, so it was even harder for people to kind of like verify immediately. But yeah, Universal Nintendo put out an article translating these two scans from this. This is an official magazine, this is official information, but there was a lot there that was really interesting. Like, we saw new art, right? Like a new render for Silex, this Lamorne character, very cool stuff. So there is new information there, right? Like, it is definitely like newsworthy, but it got kind of there was things inside the initial article that upon further review just is not there. It's just not
incorrect.
Yep. Yeah. And so, I talked to you about it last night, right? I mentioned that, you gave me your thoughts on it as well, that the Shine Sparkers translation seems to be the most reliable one. Source Gaming is also corroborating this information. What's wild to me, though, is that Universal Nintendo had talked about how they had multiple Japanese speakers read through and vet the information. So that's the part that I'm kind of like, I believe those translations because I didn't have any reason to doubt the article when they claimed that there were multiple people. I assumed that there was a community involved here, right? As I think a lot of outlets did initially, but that's not what happened. So
yeah, not at all. I mean,
yeah.
I ran it past a few people that I know in Japan, and I knew it was BS. But like as I've said before, I'm trying to be careful about what I say with Metroid Prime 4 on Twitter, because you know exactly what I've been going through.
I mean, yeah.
So I was like, how did you get that translation from this? Like, even if you use AI to translate something, you can usually tell if it's a bit off.
So what I was thinking, right, and I don't think that it's the case anymore, but at first I was thinking, is it possible that Necro Felipe, right, that's the writer and owner of Universal Nintendo, got their hands on more info that other people haven't seen, and they kind of just sort of threw that in there? That's what I kind of thought at first, because I didn't want to think that they just made up a whole bunch of stuff, right? And I mean, Necro has chimed in on different rumors and stuff before, so like I was like, okay, maybe he saw something else that hasn't been brought to light, but that doesn't seem to be the case. What seems to be the case is that it's just inaccurate.
Yeah, it very much seems as much. And look, I am not up to date with what he's leaked and what he's said in the past, so you'd probably have more of an idea than I would. I tend to find a lot of the time that stuff is just noise. But yeah, I was a bit skeptical because Nintendo are usually pretty tight with this stuff, right?
Yeah. Now, like, to be clear, I wouldn't call Necro Felipe a leaker, right? Like,
what is he? I don't even know what he is.
He's a journalist.
Okay.
He's a Brazilian journalist.
Okay. What's something prominent he's revealed before or provided intel on?
Well, I mean, that's the thing. Normally, well, that's why I wouldn't say he's a leaker, and it's okay. It's twofold. Because there are journalists that leak things, right, or provide rumors based off supposedly credible information. I wouldn't put. There have just been times where Necro seems to be on the right wavelength when it comes to directs and things of that nature. I remember he was one of the few people that was talking about Donkey Kong being something in the Switch 2 Direct and not Mario, which I think that's a big thing, right? Now he wasn't the only one. Nash Ueda was someone else more prominent that was talking about Donkey Kong being in the Direct and not Mario shortly before that presentation happened in April, right? And so, you know, I've seen Necro kind of talk about these things before. I've seen him actually report on Nintendo Directs happening before. Hasn't always been right though. That my overall kind of like understanding of him is that he sometimes hears about things, and he might put it out there. But I think because he has seen some blown back from all his reports not being totally true. For the record, most of his reports are just news, right? Like they're not like new rumors, but occasionally there have been some of those rumors. It sort of seems like he's pulled back from making those kinds of reports though, because if they are off, he's gonna get slammed, right? So you know. And I think you even understand a little bit of how that works, right? Yeah.
Totally. And like one of the problems I face is sometimes people can't tell when I'm providing intel and when I'm just guessing. Speculation.
Yeah.
Speculation, right? And then people will report on it like something that I guessed is a fact. And so it gets to a point, if I get stuff wrong, people are like, Kiwi Talks is unreliable, or Kiwi Talks is full of crap, or
a lot of conflation happens, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But almost all of the intel that I've provided so far, except for one thing, has been right. So the Retro Studios cancelled game, the Donkey Kong stuff that I won't spoil for people, Fallout on Switch 2. The only thing I got wrong, and I spoke about it on Twitter and I elaborated on Nintendo Prime's podcast, was the Kirby Smash Brothers thing. And then obviously there's a few things that are still unaccounted for, Red Dead Redemption 2.
The Kirby Smash Brothers thing? I'm trying to...
Yeah, so the negotiation tactic.
Okay. So you think you were wrong on that?
Yeah, so that wasn't the normal way I go about getting intel. In fact, usually
Sure.
people just come to me. I don't go
Sure.
out seeking it. But
Sure.
when Kirby Air Riders got announced, I found it extremely weird that it was coming out in the same year, a couple of months after Mario Kart World. It just seemed kind of odd to have two potentially racing games cannibalizing each other, right? So I seeked out somebody that I know
Yeah.
in Japan, and I
Yeah.
said, hey, what's the deal with this? And
Yeah.
he went away and got a whole bunch of information and came back with it. Now, at the time, even when he told me, I was a bit skeptical because I was like, how would you get access to high-level information like this? But everything he'd told me before, he'd gotten right. So
Yeah.
I had reason to trust him. And basically
Yeah.
the info that he told me was that Nintendo approached him to do a game, and he came up with the idea of doing Kirby Air Riders.
Yeah.
Right. And like as a negotiation tactic, because obviously they wanted him to do another Smash Brothers. And he's like, dude, I've been working on this franchise for like however long. When did he work on the Wii U one? That was like 2014,
It came out 2014.
but he started working on that like 2011 or 12 or something.
Probably,
right?
yeah.
And then
I
so
have
he
to imagine it took at least 3 years.
Yeah, and then straight after that he went into Ultimate. So
It's
that's like 10
yeah.
years straight of working on the same
'Cause
franchise.
there is a DLC for Wii U and 3DS, because it was Wii U and 3DS, right? So that makes it bigger.
Yeah.
Then there was the DLC, and then straight into Smash Ultimate, and then there was a Fighters Pass, which he was clearly heavily involved with, right? Like there's a lot of thought that went into each and every DLC character.
Yeah.
So that was a long process.
Yeah, and then he even mentioned on his YouTube channel that he went directly into Ultimate, so he didn't even get a break. So, like, I'm a creative person, you're a creative person. You can't expect the creative people to do the same thing over and over and over for like years, right? You would just be like,
yeah,
you know, you need to switch it up from time to time, especially when you're creating something like a video game. So the idea was that he wanted to do something else after Ultimate before doing another Smash, because it's like you can't ask him to do another Smash for like 5 years.
Right.
So that was the whole negotiation tactic thing behind the scenes that I got told. The only thing I was skeptical about, and this actually ties into GTA 6 for Switch 2 as well, is that I was like, how does he have access to high-level information? Because that's something that would be like way up there, right? That would be between Sakurai and maybe a few individuals at the high level in Nintendo when you're talking about contracts and stuff like that. I was like, all right, he's got a good track record. And obviously in the first Kirby Direct, he said how it came about, right? And yeah, it wasn't related. So going forward, even though that the source has got everything else right, I just won't reveal any intel that they tell me about anything else. And the reason why I bring up GTA 6 is because, so I've known about Red Dead Redemption 2 for Switch 2 for ages. Like I know 8 devs that have worked on it. It is a thing. I don't know when it's coming out. I just know that it exists. But
maybe it doesn't come out.
Well,
I mean, it probably comes out. It probably comes out.
It will come out. They won't just sit on it for like ever. Yeah. But as to when they release it, I don't know. Like I thought it would be maybe the end of this month or sometime next month. Otherwise, they won't want to, because then you start moving into GTA 6 promotional territory.
Yeah.
So,
but
even though I know
Switch 2, well, I guess it would
Switch
just
2,
be
Xbox,
Switch 2.
and PS5, right? There's supposed to be like a next gen version, and then there's a Switch 2 version. But obviously, I know people that have worked on it. But when it comes to GTA 6, I wasn't able to find any intel as to whether there was a Switch 2 version, except for one source that said to me, and I think he's full of it, to be honest.
Yeah.
He said to me that the whole thing that's going on with Microsoft has made Rockstar a bit nervous, right? Because they're kind of imploding, and they're a bit worried about the release of GTA 6 now on Xbox, since hardware is basically dropping off. And so there were high-level discussions about whether it was feasible to have GTA 6 on Switch 2. To which I said to him, how would you have access to this information? Right? Because that, once again, that would be high-level discussions between Rockstar and a few select individuals. Now, this individual is connected to Rockstar in Bangalore, in India,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
So this guy doesn't actually... So he knows people that work at Rockstar Bangalore, but he doesn't actually work there. So it's kind of like this person knows this person that knows this person sort of thing.
So,
and even then, I'm like, how would people in Rockstar Bangalore... Because they're kind of like on the ground level, right? They do mostly QA and art and stuff.
yeah.
So the only person who would possibly know any info about a GTA 6 Switch 2 version would be the CEO. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. I don't know. It's tough to say, right? You know, I try and just look at track record, you know, and just even in the thing is with track record, it doesn't guarantee anything because you're right until you're wrong. And then you might be right again afterwards, you know, like I think it's just kind of like, all right, well, is this person right half the time? Okay, well, then maybe there's a half chance that they're right. And I just kind of try and look at it like that, right? Like I talk a lot about Nash Weedle, which will probably be a talking point for our
we can talk about him now if you want. We did talk about him a little bit last night.
Like and for me, like, you know, I mean, it's on the record things he's gotten wrong, right? And I think it's clear that there are things he's heard about or he said that he's gotten wrong. And so as a result, I cannot, you know, trust literally everything he says. I mean, even if he did, even then, I still think I don't think we should be 100% with anything until it's confirmed, right?
100%. Even some of the stuff I say, like I might reveal it, but I would never say, believe everything I say 100%, because even so, like, it's still someone else who's providing me the information. Sometimes it's a direct source. Sometimes it's like somebody who knows somebody. So I think you just, with this stuff, I mean, unfortunately, unless you know the game industry, it's kind of hard to filter out the BS from the stuff that's probably more likely to be true. I mean, no doubt Nash Weedle has sources, but and as I mentioned to you last night, Prime 5 is not a thing. It's not a thing at all.
And the explanation that you provided to me, I was like, oh, you know what? Maybe because I don't think, like, my perspective is I don't think Nash Weedle like would lie, right? I think he just hears about stuff. He's a fan and he shares what he can, right? But, you know, that doesn't mean it's going to be 100%. Like, I think you look at the list of things he's gotten right this year and it's pretty like, I have a doc just because it's kind of wild.
You have a doc? Have you got a document of Nash Weedle? Really?
Yeah. It's a simple thing, but just to kind of help me keep track.
That's got to be good for his ego. That you've got a doc tracking him. Do you have a doc for me?
Not yet.
You
don't say as much though, so it's not. No, it's a little bit easier to keep track of. And I don't keep track. Let me see if I can pull it up. The thing is, because I think I was mentioning, I just changed my browser, so I don't even know how to access my Google Drive from.
Well, while you're accessing it, I'll just give a bit of an overview, because obviously the chat won't know exactly what we're talking about in regards to Prime 5 that I mentioned to you last night. So the thing is, it's very rare that two games, especially in the AAA space, will be worked on concurrently, right? Usually what happens is you finish one project and then you move on to the next one, possibly with a little bit of downtime. So what I know about Prime 4 is that this is Tanabe-san's last game. This is his swan song.
Really?
His mic drop, his magnum opus, whatever you want to call it.
Was that an accidental slip up? I didn't know that.
I've mentioned this in my Discord.
Okay. You guys should join his Discord.
Yeah. And so this is the final game before he retires, right? Which is, I wouldn't be surprised if that has something to do with
the final Metroid game or the final game.
Final game before he's done. He's hanging up.
Is this meant to be his? So this is meant to be his masterpiece.
Yeah, his mic drop. Yeah.
That's hype, bro. That's hype, bro.
That's his KO. So basically what what happens with a lot of the producers at Nintendo is there's the main producer, and then they kind of groom like secondary producers to take over in the event that they want to move on to greener pastures for whatever reason.
Like
So
Fujibayashi and Aonuma, and I'm sure there's someone under Fujibayashi that once Aonuma fully steps down, like there's a process.
So in this case it's Riza Tabata, right? So she's kind of been like Tanabe's shadow producer since like the Prime 1 days. Anywhere he goes, she goes. So if he's going to Austin, Texas, she's going with him, right? So she's kind of been groomed as his successor. So when Tanabe moves off, if he rides off into the sunset, then Riza is there to take over. And so that ensures like kind of a smooth transition, but a transition still needs to take place. So if Prime 4 is his final game, there will still need to be a transition that happens for Riza to fully move into that role.
So would he oversee a little bit still? Would he no longer be like executive producer, or just be like a producer, or you just be just
I think
done?
he's just retiring completely.
He's in Cancun after this. Okay.
Well, maybe, yeah,
Yeah, or whatever.
Drinking margaritas. I have no idea. Whatever he decides to do.
I'm so happy.
Yeah. So what sometimes happens with creative people is they plan on retiring, and then for whatever reason they get the bug, and then they don't want to retire anymore.
Well, what if Metroid Prime 4 sells like 20? It has like an Elden Ring moment, right, where it just pops, right? And
maybe he might reconsider. I don't know.
Yeah.
He is getting on, and look, when you're a producer that works with retro, it comes with, I suppose, additional baggage that maybe
it's a lot of work, right? Probably has to travel a lot more, right? And translation is probably involved. I don't know how good his English is, but
it's not great. He spent months at a time in Austin, Texas, right? And so like that's a lot of time away from your family.
Right.
There's the communication barriers as well, the cultural differences, like all the stuff that you have to work through.
Maybe if he was a bachelor, it might be a little bit different, but as a family man, it kind of changes everything.
Well, I have no idea about his personal life.
I don't know, but I mean, it seems like a safe assumption, right? I don't know. I assume most people that are 60 have a family. I assume.
But like, I know Japan, their population's declining, right? Not many people are having children. So I don't know. I wouldn't assume that he has a family. Not that I'm saying he doesn't have a family, but like, Japanese people are married to their work a lot of the time.
Sure.
So it is possible that you're Googling it right now, aren't you? You're trying to find out if he has a family.
I don't know if it says Samus.
He's married to Samus. He's married to Metroid Prime.
The first thing I just see is IMDb. Probably wouldn't be there. I mean, these things are probably private, so why would they say,
Yeah. So to go back to my point, once Prime 4 finishes, let's say hypothetically Tanabe does retire, as what I've heard. Riza steps in. There'll be a little transition period. Now, during that transition period, Retro still has to come up with a pitch to Nintendo for Prime 5. It's not like, we just start Prime 5. They have to come. They might have ideas for Prime 5, but they still have to make a pitch outline to present to them that they will agree to, right? And that's why I think, because what usually happens in these cases after a project finishes is like they start preparing for like the next project, and usually you have a bunch of designers and engineers that are prototyping things, right? But that sometimes leaves artists with nothing to do. So this is why I was thinking, because people have been going, Metroid Prime 2 remastered because of the trilogy book. It was
right.
Like, I've seen it in articles, how Tanabe's mentioned a remake and stuff. And I've been saying for ages, it's not a thing, right? If it was to become a thing, once Prime 4 finishes, that would be the time to do it. And my thinking is you'd have some concept artists that have some downtime, along with some other artists, to kind of come up with an idea of how the enemies should look, how the environment should look, craft out a bit of an idea of how it would work, and then create texture maps. Maybe a few engineers help with control stuff, and then you work on that for a bit, and then maybe you outsource it to Iron Galaxy or whoever to kind of take the reins on it, but keep it at the bar that Metroid Prime Remastered was. And then once the pitch is done for Prime 5, once they start crafting a bit of a design outline and prototyping and stuff, then you kind of move over.
I have a question. Do you have a decent understanding of like what Iron Galaxy did to Remastered? Like how close was Remastered before it was sent off elsewhere? Like how much of Remastered is done by Retro Studios, and how much of Remastered is done by all the partners involved, including Iron Galaxy? Because I know there's others, right? Iron Galaxy is the one that comes up the most.
I couldn't give you specifics in terms of like, Retro worked on 40% of it and Iron Galaxy worked on 50% of it. My understanding is that Retro did a bulk of the work.
Yeah. Right? Maybe they did all the art, right? And because the art's like, basically they make sure the game matches the art.
Yeah. And that actually takes a lot of time because it has to look like how people remember it, even though that it doesn't look like that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Oh, it's interesting because I was looking at the Halo campaign evolved stuff, right?
Yeah.
And what's funny is that when I first saw the announcement, my brain just read Combat Evolved. I was like, oh, they kept the same name. Okay. And then I saw later that it was actually Campaign Evolved. Like, oh, okay, interesting. And then I look at it, I'm like, yeah, it looks good, but it looks how I remember it. And then I looked at a comparison. I was like, oh my God. I thought Xbox games looked better than that. It's just kind of interesting, like how things have aged.
Yeah, because the way we store it in our memory, we think it looks like how it is.
Yeah,
but it actually looks more often than not terrible. And it's actually quite hard because that's actually way harder to do than creating an art style from scratch.
I bet. Yeah.
Because you're working
you're
almost in a
very specific. You know?
Yeah, and you're working within a set of constraints almost. Because it has to look like how you remember it, even though that's not how you remember it.
Probably a lot of tweaking that needs to be done. To make sure you get it right. You know, I remember, this is like a random side note. There was like a random Game Informer magazine, I want to say 2005, hyping. So I'm a little kid at this point, right? And I remember them kind of like hyping up Oblivion, if I'm not mistaken. And they were just kind of showing off like one of the character models. And I remember thinking, I can't imagine, like I was like, I can't tell if this is real or not. Like I was like, there's no way games could look any more realistic. And we go back to Oblivion now, like the original release, we're like, what? That looks like garbage. So it's just amazing how our standards have continued to change.
Yeah, I do think we've kind of reached a point though, especially like the PS4 type of era, that we've reached a point where graphics are kind of good enough now.
Yeah, which is why Switch 2 is going to just do so well.
Yeah, it'll be fine, right? Yeah, I mean, you can push graphical fidelity more, but we're at the point of diminishing returns where it's like, is it really necessary? Yeah. Is it really going to make the game better? I was speaking to some of the guys from GOG, and they made a good point about how when you're playing a game, the first thing that you kind of lose track of, or the novelty wears off quickly on, is graphics. Right? Like if the gameplay is immersive, then the graphics don't matter as much. It does slightly depend on the type of game to a degree.
Pokemon Legends ZA. The Windows.
Yeah, good example. Well, I mean, look, I am not the biggest fan of Pokemon, but
I mean, I'll tell you as a Pokemon fan playing Legends ZA, right? Who doesn't let just random reels on Instagram persuade my opinion? Like the game's good. Like, is it great? Is it a masterpiece? No, but it's a solid Pokemon game. It's not a bad one. It is a good Pokemon game. It actually has polish. Yes, they made some visual design choices that are very simplistic, but does it actually ruin my experience? It doesn't.
And clearly it didn't for like the other 6 million people that bought it. Yeah. I
Would I
mean,
want it to
I
look way
care.
better? Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And I'm excited for Gen 10 because of that. Supposedly they're working. They have a new engine. I mean, it's not even supposedly. We saw a leak. Like we saw documents, but
Oh, the one
hopefully
that looks like Power World? It kind of looks like Power World, the art style.
Yeah, my
It was
thought. Yeah, I was kind of looking. The way I kind of perceive was like it's a little bit of like a new Pokemon Snap versus like Donkey Kong Bonanza, but sure, you know. Now obviously we'll kind of have to wait and see how it looks in actual practice, right? Because that's just conceptual, and we'll see. But they even had like there was even like some footage of like some rendering techniques they were working on, like for wind and water, and it looked like definitely like several levels above what Pokemon is currently at. And so I kind of wonder, like with Pokemon, like people are complaining about the visuals and the performance. I think it's kind of one of those things where they've been working with a very old setup and they've just been kind of iterating on top of it for such a long time that there's a lot of bottlenecks and issues that require a lot of work, right? I'm talking about them basically using the same engine for years, right? So
yeah.
supposedly they have this new engine now, and hopefully that kind of is a good refresh for them, and they can kind of actually handle things in a more like efficient, smart manner, which hopefully actually materializes into a game that seems more modern. Fingers
Well, I hope
crossed.
you're right. I love
Fingers
your
crossed.
optimism.
Yeah.
I love your optimism. Yeah,
That's
I
me.
mean, I don't care about graphics that much, but I do to a certain extent. Like when I think to myself, I'm like, how much would this game sell? How different would the review scores be if this was a completely different IP? Like if you took the Pokemon IP out of it and that was just a normal game, do you think it would still get the same attention that it does?
I'm
just talking specifically about the graphical art style at the moment.
Yeah. I absolutely believe that if it didn't have Pokemon as the name, it would do a fraction of a fraction as good.
Yeah, yeah. And
but I also think that people, let's assuming Pokemon still exists, but this one particular Pokemon game is just not considered a Pokemon game because it doesn't have the branding of a Pokemon game. People would look at it and be like, "Oh, this is way better than Pokemon," and so there'll be like it'll get a cult following.
Right. I get you.
Yeah, so it'll still sell, but it won't. Like we're talking about, like I don't even know what number I would put, but we're talking about 5% or something, which is still very successful because Pokemon sells ridiculous numbers. But yeah, I mean, definitely brand is what sells Pokemon.
100%. I think my frustration comes from the fact that the franchise has so much potential. If you look at the sales for every single IP of Nintendo's on Switch, they all had their best-selling entries on the Switch, except for Pokemon.
Well, I mean, Scarlet and Violet is like second best, I think. So
is it? We would have to look.
Let me double check.
Yeah, you double check, because I know Red and Blue that sold like 33 million or something. And I personally think if they did a graphical game, it doesn't have to be like amazing graphically, right? You could do something similar to, as you said, like new Pokemon Snap, right? And like maybe just fine tune a few more things. I reckon Pokemon could sell 40 million exclusively.
Right. So looking at a chart right here, this is not the best chart, but we'll make do. This is the first one. I just went to Wiki. All right, so yeah, Pokemon Red and Blue was the exploding. Pokemon Red and Blue was the Breath of the Wild moment for Pokemon back in 1996, right? It was a viral sensation, sold nearly 31.5 million copies, right? And then it's basically another version of it. Yellow sold almost 15 million copies 2 years later. So like that generation was just insane. Gold and Silver didn't sell nearly as much. I mean, still ridiculous numbers, right? But it's definitely worse, right? But just going to the Switch era, right? So we start off with Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. That's not that's 15. Sword and Shield sold basically 27 million. Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl 15. Arceus only sold 14.83. But I think on Arceus, a lot of people don't take this into consideration. Only one version of the game. came out 2 months after Shining Pearl in a January after the holiday season, and then they immediately started marketing Scarlet and Violet like a month later. The fact that they didn't give this game a lot of marketing, the fact that it was in January, that it only had one version, and people had just bought a Pokemon game a couple months beforehand, and it still sold this much, I think says a lot. But anyway, Scarlet and Violet is the second best-selling Pokemon game at 27 million. So I mean, I wouldn't say Pokemon did poorly on Switch. Like, it did great.
I never said that it did poorly. I'm just saying, like, the potential for it could be, like, I think it could be way more. Personally.
I agree.
If you look at the sales here, it's kind of like got like a peak and valley type of vibe to it.
Sure.
The way it goes up and down. Like, you'll have one entry that sells really well, then one that's does well but nowhere near as good, and then that kind of seems to be the trend from what I can see.
I think it kind of depends on, because they're all mainline games, but there are different kind of mainline games, right? Like Scarlet and Violet is a new generation game, right? Brilliant, Diamond, Shining Pearl, Legends Arceus are in between generation games. Sword and Shield, new generation game. Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee was an in between generation game. So you kind of see, like, there's the new generation games are the bigger sellers. So we look at Ultra Sun and Moon. It's like the sequel or retelling of Sun and Moon. There's a drop off there. Sun and Moon sold significantly more. The only time where it's pretty comparable was X and Y, and then the remakes, Omega Ruby, Alpha Sapphire, were very close, right? Only a little bit worse, but still, the new gen game always sells better, right? So Gen 10 next year for Pokemon's 30th anniversary. Supposedly, I mean, the leaks say it's a switch to exclusive, right? We'll see if that holds. Like, those are all things that kind of generate hype, right? And if they're using a new engine, and hopefully, right, like it is like a sizable leap, people see that ambition, that will go very long ways. Like, I do think with Scarlet and Violet, it was technically the first open world Pokemon game, right? So that was a huge deal. And so it sold 27 million, even though it was the most poorly optimized Pokemon game we've ever seen, right?
Yes.
Despite that. And then Sword and Shield was the first proper mainline Pokemon game for a new generation, right? And so, like, there were these big things going for these two things, right? So with Gen 10, according to the leaks, there's a lot of things that they want to do for this. We'll see what it actually materializes, right? Because these leaks are from a few years ago. Plans can change, obviously. But yeah, I mean, they have an opportunity to hit an even greater level. Maybe not at first, because I doubt there's going to be enough Switch 2s that have been purchased by the end of next year to, for them to sell like 30 million copies like out the gate. But if it's evergreen, I definitely feel like it's going to be a 20+ million seller. So we'll see. But you brought up a point that I think is interesting. We won't dilly-dally on Pokemon too much, but like that the games would sell better if there was more, let's say, ambition and budget, right? I agree that they would, but I also think there's a little bit of a diminishing returns there. How much better would they sell, and would it be worth the extra money? Like, let's say they put in double the budget, would they get double the sales? And I think the obvious answer is no.
Yeah, but I don't think Nintendo looks directly at sales. Yes, it's a huge important part. But the idea for them is to try and get people into their ecosystem, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And like, not to circle back too much on Metroid Prime 4, but Metroid Prime 4 is like one of the most expensive projects. Like, I've said it before, it's like $100 million game. That's without marketing. It's insanely ambitious, and it's insanely costly, and it's highly unlikely that it breaks even unless it has like an Elden Ring moment, as you mentioned earlier. But they're not looking directly at, we need to have this many sales in order to break even. They'll be looking at how many people it brings into the ecosystem, because it represents a certain type of genre or game that Nintendo doesn't usually make, which might bring
they'll buy more games, I think, consoles, and expand the brand.
And then also they're subsidizing part of the cost with Amiibo as well.
We'll see. I mean, well, so what's interesting about that, right? And I do notice this happen. I mean, it happens with a lot of games, but like you look at like the Xenoblade series, like us Xenoblade fans, we'll buy those art books, we'll buy those figurines. You know, like they're cool. Like the fan base is strong, right? It's not several million, it's 2 to 3, but they're gonna buy the collector's edition. You know, and so the same thing with Metroid. I bought my art book. It should be coming in tomorrow. Did you get the art book?
No, I haven't got it yet.
Yeah.
I've been a bit preoccupied with other things, but
Yeah.
I know a few people who have gotten it, and I've heard good things. Some people have sent me some screenshots, which is cool. I'm sure every little tidbit will become a news article over the next week or so.
We'll see what happens. Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, me as a YouTuber, right? Like I have to, especially with where I'm at, I daily content is essentially what I aim for.
Of course, yeah.
And so I definitely go over similar talking points, but I always try to have a new angle, right? And so I will have to go back to prior talking points for context, but I always try to have something new. And so sometimes, or like, you know, it's like like there's always something about it that makes it worthwhile. That's my main goal.
That must be hard to do though. Like,
it's
come up
hard.
with new content every single day, and
Yeah.
you don't want to be doing something that someone else is doing as well, because otherwise, what separates you from them?
And
So it's something I admire, bro.
Something interesting. So I don't know if you saw, but there's a rumor for Luigi's Mansion 4 being on the way, which came from
Oh, is
Nash
it?
Weedle. Yeah. There's a rumor.
That wouldn't surprise me.
Well, I mean, it just makes sense, right? Like a lot of people have been theorizing that Luigi's Mansion 4 is probably in the works. It's one of the most successful. Luigi's Mansion 3 was very successful. Next Level Games should be about ready to put out their next game. You got Mario's 40th anniversary, the movie. Like there's the cross promotion stuff. Like if they haven't been working on it, it would be kind of surprising. So
I agree.
Yeah, but you know, I actually saw the rumor a few days ago, but because of all the Hyrule Warriors stuff and the Metroid Prime 4 stuff, I didn't make a video on it, right? But it was actually in a Nash Weedle channel video, Partida Zero, right? Only like 500 people watched that video. It's only in Spanish. There's no subtitles. I understand Spanish, so I watched the video. I understood what was said. I sat on the story for like 3 or 4 days, knowing that probably no one else was going to talk about it because they don't speak Spanish, so they probably didn't even know about the story. I put out the story yesterday. Now all of a sudden, everyone's like, "Oh, Luigi's Mansion 4 is in development." You know, but I sat on that, right? Like, it's kind of the nature of the beast.
I didn't know you could understand Spanish. Can you speak Spanish as well?
Sí hablo español. Mi español no es perfecto y tengo que practicarlo, pero sí, yo puedo hablarlo y yo lo entiendo. A veces hay un poco problemas, pero más o menos lo puedo hacer. I said basically I got to work on it, but I for the most part kind of understand it and I can talk.
Because something I'm looking at doing, not to digress too much, is so YouTube's rolled out this feature where you can upload custom audio dubs now.
Sure.
Which is very handy for me because what it essentially means is I can do an interview with someone who speaks Spanish, say a Mercury Steam developer, or I can speak to a Japanese developer, have a translator on the video, they translate everything, and then you can upload a custom audio dub to the YouTube video. So what I could do, this is like a possible scenario, is you could use something like Riverside or 11 Labs. I'm not sure if you've ever tried with them. So basically, you and I could have a conversation. I funnel the conversation through 11 Labs. I select the language, let's say Spanish. Then it converts everything you say and everything I say into Spanish, but with our accent, our enunciation, everything's still intact.
So that's okay.
Yeah. And apparently it's like pretty good. So what I essentially could do is, let's say I interview Shigeru Miyamoto, right? I have a Japanese translator. I do like an hour-long interview with him. Obviously, he's speaking Japanese, I speak English. Then I run it through this software, funnel everything out with me speaking Japanese, and funnel everything out of him speaking English, and then have 2 versions, right? So I was thinking of starting like a Kiwi Talks Japan or a Kiwi Talks Spain, Spanish. And then you can have the one video on the main channel where you can select the different language.
Yeah.
And then have a custom one. So,
so I did
if you up your
similar.
Spanish game, then maybe because I know some Mercury Steam devs.
I would love to try. I would be very nervous to do so because I feel like my Spanish is not at a professional level, right? So there would be like a word that would come up and I'd be like, ¿qué? So that's what. So there's just this, and also the thing is, it depends on dialect, right? And that sometimes that's a big thing because there's Spain Spanish, there's Cuban Spanish, there's Colombian Spanish, there's Argentinian, and they're all different. They got different words, and sometimes because my stepmother's Colombian, right? I grew up here in Miami. There's a lot of Cubans, and so they speak different Spanishes, and it's like I kind of know most of the words from those dialects. But sometimes I'll look something up, just on my own time. I Google it, and the Google's going to tell me the Spain Spanish word, and then when I use that word with people here in Miami, they're like, "What? What did you say?" This. I looked it up, and they don't know what I'm saying because it's not the same word. So it's
right.
Yeah, it can be challenging. But if something comes up, maybe I'll give it a try. But I'm not super confident.
Oh wow. Well, if you know anyone who speaks Spanish, because I am looking for someone.
Yeah.
I'm in discussions right now with a Japanese translator because there's some potential Japanese interviews I'll be doing, hopefully shortly.
Yeah. Well, someone who's a lot better at it. Attack the Backlog.
Yeah, I asked him, but he's got a bit too much on at the moment. I did message him. Yeah, I did message him about it, but because he's really good at that stuff. But yeah, he's got
what he does. I wish I could do, but I don't feel confident to do that.
Not yet.
There would just be a lot of awkward moments. Like we could probably get to the conversation, but I'd be asking, "What do you mean?" So. Yeah.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
We lost. We went off track there.
I mean, that's basically the show.
Yeah. That's
going
cool.
off track. I still want to talk about Metroid Prime 4, but we do have a main topic.
Yeah, we do have a main topic.
Yeah. So I feel like we've definitely had a nice pre-show chat for 48 minutes.
Yes.
So I'm just gonna check in with the live chat real quick, and then we'll dive into our friendly debate. Hello,
I have been
everyone.
reading some of the comments.
Yeah.
I think someone asked me, who was it? Somebody asked me about Metroid Prime 4 and whether I think there's a direct. Sorry, but I can't remember who it was, so I can't say your name. But yes, I think there will be a Metroid Prime 4 direct. I'd be very surprised if there isn't.
It makes no sense. I know some people just think Nintendo doesn't want to market the game. There seems to be this belief that they don't care about Metroid. It doesn't make any good business sense. Why would they not care?
They do care about the franchise. That I can 100% vouch for, right? It's just that the way they execute things sometimes is so bizarre that it gives the impression that they don't. If you look at the marketing for Metroid Prime 4, it is quite weird when you compare it to any other franchise that's been marketed, right? Just in terms of the trailers and stuff, it's just really odd how it's been done. Metroid Dread's marketing was fine, no problems. But there's just something. It's almost like there's somebody else handling the marketing for Prime 4 as opposed to Nintendo or something. It's just really weird, and I can't quite put my finger on it.
The Prime Remaster situation is the thing that really throws me, because I still have optimism that Nintendo's going to have a massive marketing campaign for Prime 4. At this point, it looks like maybe second week of November. We'll see, right? That's when they'll have a direct, and unless they announce it tomorrow, I don't know, right? Whenever they start, they just go, right? That's whenever it happens, they're just going to kind of do it. But I look at something like Metroid Prime Remastered, I feel like I could have done so much better.
Oh, yeah. It didn't make any sense to me either. It's clear that they had it sitting there for ages, and they couldn't figure out where to release it. But part of the reason why a lot of games don't usually come out in January and February is because it's a time where people don't have as much disposable income, right? Because it's just after Christmas and stuff. And it did feel weird that they just chucked it in there. Oh, and the physical comes out a few weeks later. Here you go. And I think there's just a few people within Japan that just don't really understand the demographic of Metroid, possibly, and because it's
Well,
not that popular in
Japan is not
Japan.
yeah.
Yeah, it's just I don't know. It's really odd.
I feel like
And
you or I could probably manage the marketing a lot better.
100%,
Yeah.
100%. Like it doesn't
Um,
make much sense to me. Like I don't know exactly what they're doing. Like those the three trailers. Like the first one, okay, it had gameplay.
I mean,
Um,
I was hyped.
oh
I
yeah,
was
look,
over
I
the
thought it was
moon.
great. I thought
Right.
I liked it, but like I can separate my emotional bias and try and look at it from an outsider's
Yeah.
point of view, right? Because if you're not a Metroid fan, you'll just be looking at it like, what is this? This is just some generic Metroid or a generic shooter, right?
I
And I
wasn't
think for
thinking that, but I could see how someone would.
yeah, and I think for a
Yeah.
lot of people, they looked at it and they were just like, this just looks like Metroid Prime Remastered. Because it did look like Metroid Prime Remastered. And they had these like weird like fade-ins that happened. And then obviously they had like little snippets at the end, like with the Vuros Jungle Planet and stuff. But it was like, okay, that's a bit disjointed. And then they had the second one with the weird narrator and like, you can
Yeah.
open doors, you know? And it's just like,
I was surprised that became like a meme. Like I didn't even realize how awkward. Like I wasn't in love with the narration, but I wasn't like even. It was just background noise to me. So I was surprised at how. I mean, it seems like everyone hates it. So I'm
well,
not
I
here
think it's
trying to
because
say
the
it's good.
narrator was kind of like a bit monotone. Like he didn't even
Sure.
believe in what he was saying. And then I think whoever did the script, yeah, it was just pretty funny. It's like, you can operate mechanisms and open doors. And it's like, well, okay. It was just kind of like anti-cathartic in a way. And then the third one, I think, like, when you watch the third trailer with the motorcycle, I mean, the motorcycle was always going to be a point of contention because it's just so
Yeah.
left field, right? Like, I didn't even, like, I know a few things about the game, but I did not know that. And even
It's a
I was
big
like,
thing.
what the heck? Because I couldn't understand it. I was like, why didn't they just go with the speed booster? But
I like
I'm
this
still
kind
looking
of
forward to
like a mount. It's like Samus's Epona.
yeah, and that's what I
So
think.
I
It is.
love
And
it.
I think
Yeah.
a lot of people were just caught off guard by it. But with the opening of the trailer, they almost zoomed in on the motorcycle, so it looked super pixelated. Looked quite
Yeah.
ugly.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, for your first kind of shot, you shouldn't really have that. And then with the motorcycle, they only showed 10 seconds or 15 seconds of footage.
Right.
And I don't think they properly conveyed to people that it's not open world. Like I've been saying for ages, this is not an open world game. It has open areas, but it's not open world. And you've got all these people, Metroid fans who are angry because they're like, wow, this is not what a Metroid game is. They're going open world, they're making everything open world. And so like, I just think
It's probably a
they
good
could have
thing
conveyed
for sales though that it does seem open.
well,
Yeah. So I think that's part of it. I actually kind of feel like since that trailer, and this is anecdotal, right? I don't have, well, we did see that it was at the top of like the Amazon charts for Switch 2 games, and amiibos are selling out. I don't know how much that really tells us, but clearly people are eager to buy the game to some extent, right? At least by those metrics.
I'm still skeptical because like on the eShop, Metroid Prime Remastered was like #1 in so many countries for like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and then it's like, oh, it's only sold 1 million, and it's like, what?
So like it's that's the thing. Like we see the top of the charts, but how much numbers does that actually equate to?
Yeah.
That said, I do feel like the conversation about Metroid Prime 4 after that trailer changed. I feel that, and I've noticed it with people in the chat. Well, a lot of people in the chat will probably say this as well. That once they kind of saw that gameplay, they weren't sold on Prime 4 before, but once they saw that kind of gameplay, like, oh, okay, it kind of evokes more of an adventure, right? It does kind of suggest that there's more to the exploration, which is what Metroid's ultimately about. It's an adventure game, right? So the bike, the vast areas, that's a good thing. That's to strengthen the adventure gameplay loop, which I know a lot of Metroid purists might be afraid of, but I think we should be open for change. They are doing things that are going to evolve the series.
Yeah. Hey, I'm 100% down for the motorcycle, and I'm sure they'll implement it well. I think the unfortunate thing is people look at Metroid Prime and they approach it like a shooter, or they look at it like it's a shooter. and some of the trailers didn't fully convey that it's an adventure game. Like, and none of the trailers you don't really see anything to do with the morph ball. You see like a glimpse of it for like
Right.
4 seconds, and then they move on to the next thing. So I'm just having a hard time understanding like who's the demographic they're trying to target here. Are they trying to target more hardcore players, like shooter fans?
If they were, they
Or
probably
the
should have
more-
had a multiplayer mode. And based off the back of the box art, there is no multiplayer in this game.
Well, I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
Implementing multiplayer would require a ton of resources.
It's like making another
you
game.
Yeah, and you got to remember, like, there's only like what 220 people at Retro. That's tiny, really. It's quite tiny. Like, so you would actually require a second team.
Yeah.
You require a second team to assist on multiplayer. So I never thought there would be multiplayer. I was like, I mean, the strength of the franchise has always been the first player mode and like the single player mode. And with Metroid Prime 2, for example, they did experiment with multiplayer.
I loved it as a kid.
Did you?
As a kid, yeah, I loved it.
Yeah,
I know it's not like
I haven't played it these
the
days,
best part of the game, but I liked it.
Well, because Metroid Prime 2 started off as a multiplayer game. They were working on a multiplayer game for like 6 months, and then Nintendo changed their minds and were like, no, just do single player. And so they're like, oh my God. But then they took a lot of the ideas from the multiplayer and incorporated it into the single player.
I actually like the idea of them doing Metroid Prime 2, like a remake of it or remastered, whatever you want to call it, but going back to the multiplayer and fleshing it out.
Yep, I agree. I have said before that Metroid Prime 2 Remastered would cost a hell of a lot more than Prime 1 Remastered.
Maybe they don't even call it Metroid Prime 2. They just call it Metroid Prime Echoes, right? And they just treat it as, it has that campaign, but the I mean, if you go back and you redo the visuals and you bolster up the multiplayer to be online with a few more players, maybe a few more maps, it becomes something else. So
yeah, I mean, whether they would invest in that, I don't know. I mean, personally, I think, knowing Nintendo, is they would just remake the single player and just leave the multiplayer out of it, and then maybe like 5 or 6 years later include it. Well, they'd include it on NSO with the multiplayer, so people can play it.
Yeah, and play it online. There you go.
Yeah. Because I've said this before, like Prime 2 would cost a ton of money to make, primarily because you can't, you know how like the original game, they basically used every room twice to try and save time, right? Save money. And it ended up backfiring because the Dark World ended up taking way more resources than they thought it would. But if you're going to remaster this game with new art, you can't duplicate the art. So that essentially have to create all new art for the Light World and all new art for the Dark World. You wouldn't be able to replicate the same art. So that basically like doubles the cost.
It's work.
Yep. If it happens, cool. But don't get your hopes up, people.
We'll see. Me just scrolling through a few things here.
Yeah, if people want to ask me questions, ask me questions. We've still got the Ocarina of Time thing to discuss. We keep digressing, but we'll get to it.
Yeah. Boom Mini adds me. That's why I haven't been doing gift and memberships lately. I'm saving my apologies because I enjoy supporting this channel. What happened? Hey man, if you gotta save, that is totally fine. But I thank you for being here and supporting regardless. Me just looking through the chat here. Connor asks me, hello, okay, so that second Kirby Air Wars Direct was crazy with the story mode, the cutscenes, and at the end with the Fountain of Dreams, the Galactic Nova coming back. Like, wow. Yeah, I mean, I actually really enjoyed the Direct. I was already sold on Kirby Air Riders, but I'm extra sold now, and I'm glad that the people that thought that there was only 5 stages in the game, because they only showed 5 stages, like, of course there was not going to be just 5 stages. Yes, there's more. So it just kind of always surprises me how some people just assume when they show something of a game that's all there is in the game. Like
That's almost never the case. Yeah.
I mean, it does depend on what it is, but in most cases, if Nintendo gives you a first trailer, there's more to the game than the first trailer.
Oh, 100%, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And like it was obvious to me with Prime 4 with that first trailer. I'm like, this is just the intro level.
Yeah.
100%. And there's still heaps of stuff that they haven't shown. Still heaps of stuff that I know about that they have not shown. And I'm like, why? So that's why I think a Metroid Direct is happening.
Ridley, yes or no?
I can't comment on that.
Okay. Well, I'm asking for your opinion.
I will say this. Retro Studios loves Ridley. So
what you just told me is that Ridley's not in the game, but Ridley's ancestors in the game. And it's like a giant super space dragon thing that's like it's this whole ordeal, and you're gonna fight him when you go back in time because time travel is part of the gameplay loop.
Wow, you've got quite an imagination there.
Maybe I do. Yeah.
But
that is me joking. By the way, like, I mean, I don't know, maybe, but that's
Retro love Ridley, but Ridley wasn't in Prime 2, so I will say this: if they can make it work thematically, they will probably put him in there somewhere.
Yeah. My thought process, I was kind of joking, right? But like, I do theorize that there's maybe time travel involved, and so like maybe we don't fight Ridley, but we fight something similar to Ridley. I could see something like that. But did you see the leaked commercials for Prime 4?
Yes.
You were one of the 400,000 people that got their hands on the unlisted links, and it's wild how many views those unlisted videos have.
I think I saw it on Twitter. Somebody posted it on Twitter, or they posted the link on Twitter. And then I saw one of them, and then I heard there was a second one, and then I found it, and I looked into it, and I was like, oh, this is actually pretty cool. I mean, I don't think the proper marketing for Prime 4 is really kicked off yet. Like, they're either going to do one final trailer with a whole bunch of like snippets and stuff like that, like commercials, little like 30-second ads for YouTube, or they'll do a big Metroid Direct. I still think they're going to do a Metroid Direct, because it would seem weird to me to do a Kirby one, to do like a Donkey Kong one, and like your most expensive game that you've worked on probably, not to do a Metroid Direct for it. It would just seem a bit bizarre to me, personally. Yeah.
Well, I brought up the commercial. I totally agree with you, but I brought up the commercials though because one of them shows a new boss, Zelios, which I found interesting because it's a lot like Helios from Prime 3.
Zelios, was that the one that looked like? Which one's Zelios?
So
is that the hexagon type one, what was it? Hexagon or an octagon?
Yeah, it's like a whole bunch of hexagonal plates forming an orb of like green electricity in the commercial.
Right. Gotcha.
And so in Prime 3, now I think it's one of the more obscure bosses. Maybe obscure is the wrong word, but it's one of the lesser popular main bosses in Prime 3. But you do fight this thing called Helios, which it's mostly round in structure. It's mechanical. It has a whole bunch of drones. It's not exactly the same, but it's similar. It's kind of like a roundish object with a lot of mechanical parts surrounding it. And so not exactly the same, but I think it's clearly inspired. Zelos is inspired by Helios. So it just kind of gets me thinking, could there be other bosses that in Prime 4 that are taking inspiration from prior Prime bosses?
I thought that boss was inspired by Federation Force, like one of the bosses in Federation Force.
Maybe you're
I
right.
haven't even played Federation Force, so I don't know. But I remember reading it on the Metroid subreddit, and I was like,
maybe there's something to that. I just noticed the connection to the Prime 3 boss, Helios. So I didn't finish Federation Force.
I didn't even play Federation Force.
Yeah.
So I was not playing that. When I saw the art style, I'm like, nah, sorry, man. I can't get in on this chibi art style.
I still gave it a whirl. I mean, I didn't like the art style either, but my main issue with the game was that the idea is to play with a friend, right? Cooperative play, and the
Right.
Wi-Fi on 3DS just sucked. Like our games would always drop.
Fair
So
enough.
we tried a few times and it was annoying, so we stopped playing. It was so we never finished it.
Mm.
Anyway,
Anyway.
I'll focus a little bit more on the chat when we close out. I'll answer this one quick question here. Having Hope asked me, how is Ruby this evening? Can we see her before you end the stream? Try to remind me, because I know I have a history of forgetting to show Ruby off. She is right there sleeping on my PC. So maybe I'll grab her.
Is it a cat?
Yes.
Oh,
It's my
nice.
cat. Yeah. But try to remind me before I end up. Before we end, I'll say, hey, we're closing out to do some chat. And then remind me, because there's a great chance I'll forget because I've done it before. But anyway, on to the main topic. Here we go. So, for many years, The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time has been theorized to be getting a remake down the road. And more recently, rumors have popped up to support these theories, right? I think then, we'll probably go back and forth on all the different things. I mean, I could give you the long list. I don't know if you've seen my videos on it, but there's a long list of things.
Few. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of them. So, but
I think after a while it blurred in my head.
Yeah, I mean, every it feels like every once in a while I have to kind of do like a summary of all the things and put it into one place, because over every few months there's always like a little something. But I feel that over the last few years there's been a mounting evidence for an Ocarina of Time remake. And I don't know exactly when it's coming out, but I do believe this is the most likely next major like 3D Zelda project. And it makes sense to come out for the 40th anniversary, but I could also see it come out in 2027 to follow up the Zelda movie, to have like something for people to play after that, kind of like the Mario Wonder situation, how there's a Mario game after the Mario movie, or maybe it's like the Galaxy 2 thing. Oh, Galaxy 2 comes up before the Mario Galaxy movie, but that is kind of like, I think that's happening. And I know you've mentioned that you think maybe they'll do like an HD version of Ocarina of Time 3D. I don't think that's going to fly well, but I understand where you're coming from. Feel free to expand if you want.
Rather than me like trying to sit here and like dismantle an argument, I think it would be a cool idea to try and flip this on you, because I think I need to understand how you've come to the conclusions that you have. Okay.
Sure.
So, all right. So with an Ocarina of Time remake, if it was to be made, how many years do you think it would take to make?
No idea.
No idea.
I mean, I imagine it takes 3 at least.
3?
If it's ambitious.
Yep. Okay. If it was to be made, who do you think would be making it?
The Zelda team would be involved.
How heavily involved do you think that would be?
I think that at the very least, it would be somewhat like a Wind Waker HD situation, where the Zelda team would use that to kind of get acquainted to the hardware and work on that. And perhaps in tandem, because we've seen multiple Nintendo EPD teams work on multiple projects at once. Like, we know Pikmin 4 was worked on and tested on for years. I assume that Donkey Kong Bonanza is not the only thing the Mario Odyssey team has been working on the last 8 years either. So I do think these things are kind of there's a back and forth. There's people sitting, there's a lot of back and forth and different things happening, and then co-development. So I do, like I said, I think the main Zelda team has been involved. I'd have to imagine that there's some extra assistance going on, because of course they got to make the next new 3D Zelda as well. But I also think that one of the big things about the big ideas with this project is that it would be meant to be something to tide us over until the next Zelda game. And you look at things from a historical perspective, there is always a major Zelda release in the first few years of a new console. If it's not a brand new Zelda game, it's some kind of exciting remaster. Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom Switch 2 Edition do not count. Those have barely graced the sales charts. I think Nintendo was aware of that. I think it's got to be something else. So yeah, I do think we're looking at some kind of Zelda release in the second or third year that's going to get that Zelda fan base involved early on. I imagine Nintendo's been planning this for a while.
Okay.
And maybe it's not Ocarina of Time Remake. There are other possibilities, but I think they have to have been working with this in mind for a while. They have to have known that they're not going to have a 3D Zelda like Tears of the Kingdom, probably not for another, 5-6 years?
Anywhere between 5
maybe,
to 6. I would think.
Four if we're extremely lucky, right? Just because it's already
that would happen. I doubt it.
Yeah, I mean, Tears of the Kingdom came out in 2023, so 4 years from now would be, 2029, right? So 6 years is what we've come to expect, but there is a trend for them to take longer and longer. And that's another, but that actually is another point, though. I think Nintendo has to be aware that these longer development cycles between mainline Zelda games is actually kind of a problem for the brand. They need to continue having consistent Zelda releases, so they have to think of ways to do that. Remaking some games, now that they've remastered them, years later, is one way they can go about keeping the Zelda flow of content.
Okay, so with this Ocarina of Time remake, you think essentially every single thing would be remade? So they would design the whole game differently. There'd be different dungeons. The story would be different. Like, are we talking a Resident Evil 4 remake here, or a partial remake where some aspects of it are still the same? Like, will the music be the same? Will it be different? Like, when you're talking about,
I mean, I definitely think we're talking about something more ambitious than Ocarina of Time 3D.
And you think they could do that in 3 years?
I said at least.
At least 3 years.
At least. These rumors for Ocarina of Time, technically, there've been talks of this since the COVID years, if I'm not mistaken. So
okay, but
this may be something they've been kind of tinkering around with for already half a decade.
Sure, but it took them what? How many years was it? 6 years between Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom? Was it 6 years? Yeah.
And Breath of the Wild came out 27. Yeah. Well, yeah, about 6 years and 2 months.
And they reused the same world, and it still took them 6 years.
That blew my mind. That doesn't make any sense. First off, that doesn't make any sense.
Well, it's because I can tell you.
Well, I mean, I can guess. COVID
was part of it.
The other part is that the Tears of the Kingdom gameplay mechanics were just ridiculous. Ultra Hand,
that's essentially it.
They had an extremely ambitious idea, but it required, from a development perspective, going back and redoing everything in terms of how it works.
Yeah, so when you're developing a game, right, you only have a certain amount of time, money, and resource, right? And so you have to work out relatively early in the project, if you're smart, where you're going to allocate that time and resource, right? So with Tears of the Kingdom, it's obvious where most of the investment is of time and resource, and it's in the advanced physics, right? But that was at the expense of the world.
Yeah, the world sucked.
Well, I mean, it's essentially the same world remixed. And
I mean, that's me exaggerating, but many Zelda fans kind of feel like there should have been more new added to the world.
But here's the thing. You only think it sucks because you played Breath of the Wild. If you played Tears of the Kingdom first, you probably wouldn't think that. And I'm basing this on the fact because I gave the game to my nieces and nephews.
Yeah.
They never played Breath of the Wild. They played Tears of the Kingdom first. Then they went and played Breath of the Wild afterwards. And they were like, oh, this is just the same kind of thing.
Right.
So it actually kind of depends on which one you played first.
Oh, man, I totally agree.
Yeah,
the thing is, Tears of the Kingdom is an insane game when you really think about how much there is to do. Because there's the whole overworld. Then they put in caves. Then there are the Sky Islands. Then there are the depths. You have all the physics systems involved, like the weather, right? All the abilities. the fact that you can now have characters following you around, and you can join these battles with other NPCs, and there's explosions and everything else, and all this can be layered on top of each other. Like, it's insane. Like, I'm surprised that they also implemented the sages and how you could have all of them following you around doing different stuff on top of all that. Like, it's crazy what they were able to accomplish with the Switch with Tears of the Kingdom. Don't get me wrong. Like, I get that it took them a very long time to do that. It's crazy.
Yeah, and I also think that the Zelda fandom has essentially split in half now. You've kind of got like the OG fans that are like, we just want the Ocarina of Time model to come back. We don't like this open air model. And then you've got the new fans that only want to play the open world model. Yeah. And I don't think Ocarina of Time Remake would sell as much as people think it would. I don't think it would sell anywhere near 20 million. I think maybe 10, possibly 12. But I don't. And I feel from a developer's standpoint is they like the open model because it kind of is like removing the shackles and chains from them. It allows them to, I suppose, flex more creative muscles because you don't have like a one-path solution to solving everything. Everything isn't just linear, right? So I don't know, man. Like I personally feel that if they did a Ocarina of Time, yeah.
Oh no,
sure.
go. Finish.
No. I was just going to quickly say, I would think if they're going to do an Ocarina of Time, they would remaster the 3DS version. Now you could essentially give it a new coat of paint, like Metroid Prime Remastered or Oblivion Remastered. But I would assume that they'd keep the fundamental design the same, the story the same, the music, everything's still intact.
I mean, if it's visually looks like a modern game, then we're on the same page. Like, I think,
okay, because that's not a remake, that's a remaster in that case.
Remastering a remaster.
Yeah, well, I mean, all of the other thing they could do is just like HDify.
I do think they might add some things. You know, it's a blurred line situation. I've noticed recently a lot of people have been calling Metroid Prime Remastered in articles remake, even though remastered is literally in the title.
It's not a remake because the design's fundamentally the same. Everything's still the same from like from a design standpoint, from an engineering standpoint. The only thing that's really been overhauled is the art and then like a few control options and stuff.
It's just that the terms are so... People are so inconsistent with them.
Oh, I agree. 100%.
Yeah.
I'm talking like, specifically from Nintendo's standpoint here.
Yeah.
How they
what's
view it.
funny is that, like, you know, there are times Nintendo's called Ocarina of Time 3D a remake, and there are other times Nintendo's called it a remaster. So what is it? I mean, if we look at the Ask Developer interviews, like, we come to understand like what they did, like they built it, they built on top of the code of Ocarina of Time. Like, they didn't create it from scratch. So they remastered it. They enhanced the original work. They didn't create something totally new.
I guess you could say that. But the thing is with Majora's Mask 3D is they actually fundamentally changed a few things. Like, the bosses are different.
A few things, but not everything.
Yeah, not everything. So when you start messing with design elements, or you're changing certain things within the world, then it kind of moves more into the remake territory.
Have you heard of the patents?
The original source code. What?
Did you hear about the recent story on the patents?
Which patents are you talking about?
So recently, some patents came out. Nintendo put out a whole bunch of patents for The Legend of Zelda. Seemingly Zelda-related patents. This happened I made a video about it like a week ago, or 2 weeks ago. And so a few of those patents were just showing basically the same patents we kind of saw before Tears of the Kingdom came out a few years ago. And these patents, would it be better if I just showed you the visuals?
Yeah, just show me the visuals.
Okay,
yeah.
So I'm gonna pull up my video and just literally scroll through.
Yeah. Picture's worth 1,000 words. So,
and the thing is, going back to the patents, like, you have to like search, and it just takes a while. But if I go to the video, I can just show you. As soon as YouTube loads, for some reason it's not loading. Okay, there you go. Okay.
A lot of people are saying 4 to 5 years for the Ocarina of Time remake.
Yeah, I think it depends on when they started development in earnest, right? Because they may have been thinking about concepting it for, you know what I mean? Like, because for example, I think they were definitely thinking about what they were going to do with Breath of the Wild 2 for a while after Breath of the Wild, but I don't think they actually started developing in earnest until a little bit after it came out.
Right.
Anyway.
That's like Game Freak could do it in 2 years.
That's hilarious and true.
Well done, Wilberforce Wooster. That's hilarious.
All right, so let me see if I can find... All right, so here in this section of the video, right, I just point out how we've seen Nintendo patents actually amount to something in the future, right? So I think I showed here, like, so for example, these patents came out a few years before Tears of the Kingdom came out, and they demonstrated new aerial shooting animations, right? Or like we even talk about, I think I also mentioned how, like, you know, we had seen patents and Nintendo's looking into Joy-Cons that play with magnetism. What happened? Switch 2 has magnetic Joy-Cons. So, like, patents do sometimes actually amount to something. It's insight into what Nintendo is researching and developing on. Doesn't mean, it doesn't guarantee that it's gonna be in something, but it does show what they've been kind of looking into, which can hint at what may show up in the future.
But they prototype things all the time, and they're patenting things all the time.
Absolutely, right? So I'm not here trying to say this 100% guarantees that it's going to be in there, but the only point I'm making is that it could, right? And sometimes it's interesting how sometimes patents show up and something materializes shortly after. Like the two I brought up here, like the Tears of the Kingdom patents, the Switch to magnetic patents, like they show up, and then we see those announcements. So interestingly, not that long ago, I think I even have the dates here. October 14th. That was 2 weeks ago.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Where did you find all this?
This is the U.S. Patent Office.
Right. Gotcha.
Yeah. Okay. I was first tipped off to it from Mike Odyssey, and then I found a little bit more. So as you see here from this patent, this is kind of showing off like fuse and ultra hand mechanics, right? But they're filing a new patent for it. And then there's more here, right? Like clearly this is Tears of the Kingdom mechanics, right? Like putting the glider and the fan together, the wheels. So they file a few patents like this, right? That's Joy-Con stuff. Main point is that there were some patents that look like Tears of the Kingdom, but they're filing them again. But there was another patent. I think this shows like glider stuff. Yeah, that's glider. Clearly, that's Tears of the Kingdom glider stuff, right?
Yep.
But it, I wonder why are they doing it again? And there's a few possibilities there. So the thing is, like, I had first saw Mike Odyssey make a video about this, and at first I was like, yeah, this probably doesn't mean anything, right? Like, we see patents like this all the time. But then I see this one, right? And all you see here is like a girl or some person with long hair and like a camera thing. But then as I scroll through looking through more images, I see this. And you see kind of like an ornate like fence on the second floor. They're looking at this picture up top. Mike made a suggestion that this is like Princess Zelda. Like, no, it's just a person with hair. Like, I don't think that's that at all. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it is. I don't think so. These patents don't really detail those kinds of things, right? They're usually very vague. But continuing, I'm trying to, it's this part that really starts to get my brain thinking that there might be a connection here, because they're patenting how you interact with the game screen and what's around you, right? So here you'll see there's this character, and there are these sparkles rotating around this character, and there's even like a big one, and there's a painting here. And so if we continue, we then see that the sparkles leave the character and then point at the painting. And so this is where I'm like, wait, hold on a second. This is very much like the Forest Temple environment that had ornate structures, right? There's even a part where it had, it's detailing a similar environment. Like there's like the Poe, right? The paintings.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yes.
When was this filed? When was this patent filed?
They all happened on the same day. Let's see, what does it say? This was a Tears of the Kingdom one filed 2023. Published. I think they were published recently. They were published today. I would have to go back to, because there's several, right?
So
Um,
so just to make sure that
this
I'm on
one,
the same
this
page as
one,
you here.
this one was
Um,
published after Tears of the Kingdom came out. This camera stuff. Well, this was
Mm.
filed after Tears of the Kingdom came out, published recently.
So you're saying that you think this mechanic here could be related to the Ocarina of Time remake, something to
It's
do with that frame.
it's interesting. Because they're playing around with like how a fairy would interact with the environment, and they're using similar Ocarina of Time like stuff. So it's just kind of like it's interesting they're filing patents like this, and now they're getting published. And you know they're concepting kind of, I guess, a modern way to kind of like use like a fairy like Navi to interact with objects on screen.
Interesting.
Yeah.
My biggest thing is like, who would develop this? I don't think they would outsource it to a third-party developer, right?
Yeah.
They're not going to outsource it to like Tantalus or something. And usually what they do is they use remakes
I feel like
to
I've covered
train
the
up.
patents enough, right? So I can probably
Yeah.
turn
They
this
usually
off.
use remakes or remasters as a way to train a team up before they get them on a proper project. So Grezzo kind of used.
What did they do
Ocarina of
before?
Time.
What did they do before Ocarina of Time 3D?
Grezzo?
Yeah.
I don't think they'd done anything of that scale. That's actually a very good question. But like
I
before
feel like
they
that was
did
pretty
Echoes of
ambitious for
Wisdom.
the time.
Yeah, well,
yeah.
because they didn't do Echoes of Wisdom until they'd done the remakes, right?
I mean,
And I think
so
Grezzo assisted.
I got a page up here of what Grezzo's worked on. So, I guess they helped out with Final Fantasy 11 in 2002.
What? Okay.
Line Attack Heroes for the Nintendo Wii. I don't know what that is. And then randomly, they're like, okay, we worked on The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time 3D and The Legend of Zelda Four Swords editions in 2011. Then Street Pass Garden, Legacy, The Legend of Legacy, Majora's Mask 3D 2015, Triforce Heroes 2015. They co-developed that with Nintendo EPD. Ever Oasis and the Alliance Alive. You remember Ever Oasis? It was kind of like their Zelda-like game that no one bought. I mean, actually, I thought it was cool, but I was a kid, so I don't know. Luigi's Mansion in 2018 did the remake for that. Link's Awakening. The remake of Link's Awakening in 2019. I was confusing with Link Between Worlds. Link's Awakening remake 2019, Miitopia 2021, Jet Dragon, their own thing on iOS, and then Echoes of Wisdom in 2024. Which, by the way, Echoes of Wisdom actually has a lot more references to the Hero of Time era than any other Zelda game. They show off Volvagia. They bring back the Deku Scrubs. They bring back the Deku Tree design. There's like a lot of interesting references there, and so this. Let me tell you the main point I think an Ocarina of Time remake is happening above everything else, because we can bring up the pads, we can bring up references, all that stuff is like just little stuff, right?
Okay.
The main reason why I am convinced there is going to be an Ocarina of Time remake is because Aonuma's basically told us that it's happening. So. There's a video I made a while. Well, all right, maybe
he was. I mean, usually when something's non-development, he says no comment or he can't comment on it, right? So he got asked about an Ocarina of Time remake and he kind of just dodged the question. But that could also mean he could be just remastering Ocarina of Time with a new paint job like Metroid Prime Remastered and Elder Scrolls Oblivion.
Well, I mean, do you want me to go over exactly why I'm so convinced on it, right?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Right?
Go ahead.
Because I mean, if you just want to agree that definitely is an Ocarina of Time project, we can move past it. Like we don't even have to cover it. Like if we can just agree there's an Ocarina of Time project, because I think you're right. Him teasing an Ocarina of Time project doesn't mean it has to be a big remake. It could just be some kind of remastering. So I don't have to go over it, but I could.
You look really happy right now, and you want to go over it. So I'll let you go over it.
I'll go over it. All right. So it's just like there was this one time I did a video where I just kind of looked back at like every single interview where we saw Aonuma had maybe teased a future Zelda project, and I
Right.
noticed a trend, right? It's not even up for debate because Aonuma has told, like, literally, like, not exaggerating, he has confirmed that he has teased Zelda games in the past, right? So in the case of Link's Awakening, like 3 years before it came out, there was an interview. I don't remember the one off the top of my head, but I've sourced it in various videos. He talked something about like the like a thief, right? He had hinted at something in an interview about Link's Awakening, and then years later he confirmed that yes, he was teasing Link's Awakening remake. So that's a scenario where Aonuma has literally confirmed that he has teased projects in the past, right? So that's one example. But then, you know, he's teased Majora's Mask 3D. There was that time where he was at that Zelda concert and he was like, hey, I know what you guys are thinking. Skyward Sword on Switch, right? And then Nintendo executives shortly after, like, oh, no, it's not in development. And then a few years later, we got Skyward Sword HD. Even recently, like he was shortly after Tears of the Kingdom came out, he was asked about, oh, will we ever see like a playable Princess Zelda? Like, I don't know. That's kind of a funny idea. And months later, Echoes of Wisdom is announced, right? So like there's clearly a history of him being in interviews and kind of talking about these things. But the trend I notice is that every time he steps out of character for the interview, that question is out on his behavior for that question is unlike anything else. He's laughing or he speaks in English when he's speaking in Japanese the entire time. Like if he starts laughing and speaking in English and he hasn't done that for the entire interview, that's kind of been a common sign that he's trying to. He's one of us, if that makes any sense. Like he has fun with this stuff and he's excited, but he can't say what certain things.
Of course, yeah.
But there is absolutely a clear trend of him laughing and speaking in English when accidentally, or maybe not so accidentally, teasing a future Zelda project. And so there are two interviews where Aonuma has very arguably teased this project, not just one. One is, I think, more obvious than the other. There's one that I think came from a Nintendo Dream magazine, interestingly. And in this interview, they were talking about this is a Tears of the Kingdom related interview, right? So they both happened in 2023. They were talking about Rauru, the character, in Tears of the Kingdom, and I'm paraphrasing here based off memory, right? But he said something to the effect, I wonder how many people really know who Rauru is now. Kind of like, obviously referencing Rauru from Ocarina of Time, right? Like, I don't know if many fans even know who Rauru is anymore. So he kind of like stepped out of character to kind of mention that interesting side comment. So that's the one arguable tease, right? The more, I would say, incriminating one, maybe that's not the best connotation, but depending on who, because maybe Nintendo reps were like, oh no, there you go, Aonuma, don't do this again. But there was that Game Informer interview, which unfortunately Game Informer is like done. You can't even go back to the article. I have screenshots of it. But there was like that famous Game Informer interview where at the very end, this is, I think, at the end of 2023, this interview came out. Aonuma was point blank asked, are you working on a Ocarina of Time remake, right? And that was a perfect opportunity to say, hey, we have Ocarina of Time 3D, or say no. And what's interesting is that in that same month, there was another interview that came out about there being a Zelda Dungeon Maker, and Aonuma was like, hey, that's not happening. That we don't have any plans like that. So Aonuma, when asked about certain Zelda projects, has deconfirmed things around the same time. But this one, when there's a lot of people talking about it, a lot of excitement for it, he laughs and says no comment. But what makes this more interesting is that the writer of that article saw my video and reached out and told me, hey, by the way, I didn't put this in the article, but he actually said that in English, unlike the rest of the interview. So, it was just kind of like an interesting thing that happened there. And so to me, that's kind of like, listen, we've seen the history. He teases things. He's probably going to do it again. We have two occasions of it. He's stepping out of character. We've seen him deconfirm things when he's had the opportunity to. There's been a lot of talk about Ocarina of Time, even then, and he didn't deconfirm it. He had opportunity to deconfirm. He fueled the fire. So to me, that's like, hey, we could talk about all the other little things, 40th anniversary, all that little stuff. I think something's happening because of that. What it is exactly?
I think it's a remaster. I think they're going to do one of two things next year for the 40th anniversary. They'll either do a Twilight Princess and Wind Waker HD dual release, like Super Mario Galaxy 1 and 2.
Sure.
Or they'll do a HD version of Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. That's what I think. I think it'll be one of those two things. I don't think you'll get a full-on remake. But with that being said, I think the Zelda movie will give us more of an idea.
So, I'm glad you brought that up. So another part to this to me is that I fully buy into the cross promotion theory, right? I think you kind of know what I'm getting at, is that Nintendo does do things and lead up to other things, and I think it's pretty well documented. Like a big point that I've kind of argued for years is that Nintendo probably is working on a 3D Donkey Kong game. Mario, it may perhaps by the Mario Odyssey team. That was kind of the theory for years, and that was proven true this year, right, with Donkey Kong Bonanza. But the thing is, there were rumors about it, and I had actually been told myself about something like this like years ago, and I talked about it in a video, and people would ask, it's like, hey, so is anything happening with this? And I was like, I don't know. We heard about something in 2018, and we don't know. Now we know that they actually were working on it throughout the entire Switch era, right? So it wasn't like a fabrication. It's just, it took them a long time.
Yep.
That's all it was. It took them a long time. And my main sticking point for years is like, hey, if this is happening, we'll probably see it come out somewhat close to the Donkey Kong expansion to Super Nintendo World. And what happened? Bonanza came out a couple months after the opening of the Donkey Kong opening to Super Nintendo World. So that's just kind of like one example of, hey, like they do, like the park and the game, there's a connection there, right?
I get that.
Yeah.
However, it is extremely difficult to make that stuff coincide.
Line up.
Yeah, line up perfectly. Extremely difficult.
They do it if they can.
On the game side, especially, right? Because there's always delays, especially with Zelda. And we still don't know the finer details on the movie.
Well, the park was actually delayed a lot, by the way. The Donkey Kong park, the Donkey Kong park saw several delays.
Yeah, and they can happen. So to try and like line up everything perfectly is extremely difficult. I've heard that they're going to start shooting the Zelda film next month.
I hope it doesn't get delayed.
I just met up with a mate that I know.
Yeah.
Last weekend, his I don't want to give away too much because I can't really say too much, but like he knows someone who's connected to the casting director. So I've been trying to get info on being an extra somewhere because it's being shot here. But I heard that they're potentially doing a trilogy, 3 films.
Yeah, I feel like it's been rumored. It makes sense.
Well, I know. So Miyamoto and Onuma, quite a few of them, they're huge Lord of the Rings fans, right? Twilight Princess was hugely
game.
Yeah, truly. They were very much inspired with Twilight Princess from the Lord of the Rings films.
Yeah,
and obviously the Lord of the Rings films were shot here in New Zealand. It kind of, when you put stuff together, it kind of makes sense. It's like, okay, they're going to try and make their own version of Lord of the Rings with these Zelda films. Whether they can pull it off, though, tall order, like considering the gravity of what the Lord of the Rings films did. But so whether that ties into the game, I guess we'll see. But once we kind of have more of an idea of what the Zelda film is going to be about, whether it's an original story, whether it's taking notes from Ocarina of Time, then we can probably get more of an idea of whether you're on the right track or not.
Yeah, so, I mean, obviously we'll see if what's happening with Zelda, right? But, we see this with other stuff. Like, I mean, Galaxy 2 wasn't in 3D All-Stars, interestingly. right? Back in for the 35th anniversary, people kind of wondered why. And now for the 40th anniversary, Yoshi's involved. Galaxy 2 comes out. They're having a Mario Galaxy movie. It kind of seems like they're like, hey, this is the ideal time to have it come out, right? And so it's kind of like another example of them using certain releases to benefit others, right? There's a cross promotion there. We've seen that it's well documented that like Mario games saw increased sales because of the Mario movie, or like how when Pokemon Go came out in 2016, that massively increased the sales for the launch of Pokemon Sun and Moon. So like this whole plan Nintendo has of like expanding and branching out their IP, they've seen the benefits of it, right? So these different things, it all matters. But to your point, like it is hard for things to get to line up. It's not guaranteed that an ambitious game project is going to line up with a movie or a park release, right? If it works out, great. If not, there probably is going to be a fallback. Like, what if maybe they wanted 3D Mario to be coming out close to the Mario movie, right? But instead, they're like, hey, well, let's just do Galaxy 1 and 2. Obviously, that didn't take them too many resources to put together, and maybe it's still the case that 3D Mario is planned to come out next holiday, and there can still be a benefit there. People are going to be more interested in Mario following the movie. And so they're like, oh, Mario's cool. The game afterwards, like there can still be that. But in terms of,
I just want to quickly say something, and then you can go back to your point, because you mentioned about how Nintendo planned these things. So I did a presentation at the NZGDC. It actually releases this Saturday. I did a 20-minute presentation, and I actually covered this briefly. But what Nintendo actually tries to do, as opposed to someone like, say, Microsoft, is they will sacrifice the short-term gain in order to secure the longevity of their IP, which means they do plan this stuff out years in advance, right, to try and make things align. Granted, there are delays and stuff that happens. So it is no coincidence that the 40th anniversary is next year. And like, I think the original idea was to have the Zelda film come out next year to coincide with it, but for whatever reason it got delayed. So I wouldn't be surprised if they have something for the 40th anniversary next year, and then they have something the year afterwards that might be more in line with the Zelda film.
Maybe that's the game. Could be, right? Like my point is 2026 or 2027. I hope 2026, because the sooner the better, right? But which would also be more time for them to, if it's more ambitious, to get it done, right? Man, there's just a few different directions we could go here. I don't even remember what I was talking about before, so I'm just gonna talk about this next thing. Did you hear about the Ocarina of Time Lego set? A new one.
Isn't there one that's already out? Or...
Not the one that's already out, which is interesting that it exists, right? That they went back to the Deku Tree design from Ocarina of Time, but I am not even talking about that one. But I do think that does factor into the whole cross-promotion idea that Nintendo does things to sort of build up the brand and lead up to more. So let's put a pin on the Lego thing. Just so let me kind of expand on this idea, right? Like, so we go back to like Pikmin, right? Like they had Pikmin Bloom, they had Pikmin 3 Deluxe, they had the Pikmin in the Super Nintendo World Park, and these things all came out leading up to Pikmin 1 and 2, and then Pikmin 4, and Pikmin 4 has gone on to become the best-selling Pikmin game, right? Like Nintendo has tried to kind of branch out the Pikmin brand. It's smaller scale, but they do things like this, right? With the Mario stuff, that's pretty obvious. Like, they had so many things building up to the Mario movie. They had the Mario Lego sets, right? Obviously, like there's been so much going on with Mario over the last few years, but they've really done a lot to try and expand the brand of Mario, and it's worked. I mentioned the Donkey Kong thing already, and I think that they're going to do something for Zelda. I assume that the next expansion to Super Nintendo World is for Zelda. That just seems to make the most sense to me. We've even seen actually Aonuma in a construction helmet hat next to Miyamoto from a leaked Instagram picture of them at Orlando, if I'm not mistaken, looking at plans for construction. Like, Miyamoto's going to be there because Mario, he's just, he's going to represent Mario, Donkey Kong, and Zelda. But Aonuma is only going to be there for Zelda. This was leaked on Instagram and taken down. So Nintendo was not happy this photo got out there. To me, that suggests that, they're probably planning Zelda something soon, which only makes sense. Like, if you had to guess, what's the next expansion to Super Nintendo World? I mean, it could be Pokemon or Animal Crossing, but Zelda makes the most sense, especially with the movie.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I'd imagine. I'd be very surprised if it's not Zelda. Pokemon's a bit more of a blurred line because you've got multiple IP holders. So it's not.
There's already a Pokemon park in Japan, I think.
Yeah, but who manages it? Who owns it?
I have no idea.
Yeah. Kirby would be the same. Another problem. Animal Crossing's an interesting one because it's massive, but does it have a cult-like fan base? I don't know. Like, I don't think the fan base is super diehard like Zelda fans are.
I don't know. I think
or even Metroid fans for that matter.
Do you think we ever could do it? Do you think someday we'll ever get a Metroid park?
I think there's certain milestones that Metroid needs to hit before that becomes a reality.
So we need that Breath of the Wild Elden Ring moment with Metroid Prime 4.
Yeah, it has to do way better before they can justify it, right?
Yeah,
I feel like Metroid isn't popular in Japan. Yeah,
that's a good point. Yeah,
I
feel like what they could do is maybe eventually have like a Smash like expansion, and that's kind of their opportunity to have like a Star Fox ride, a Kid Icarus ride, a Metroid ride, like a Xenoblade ride. Like, maybe it's not so much that they have a park expansion for one IP, but a park expansion that includes some of the lesser known IP in one fell swoop. Where
I don't think they'd do a Smash Brothers type thing. They would just have it under the Nintendo umbrella. The thing is with Smash Brothers is it's kind of like the video game Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
like, it's essentially what the game is at this point, and it's not even just Nintendo IP anymore. It's like a celebration of video games, and then like Sakurai would probably want to be heavily involved. I don't think it's as clear cut as saying, let's do this for the theme park with Mario or Star Fox or Zelda or something where Nintendo controls everything.
A lot of people would want to be involved from a creative.
100%.
Part, yeah.
And like they can't, and I've said this before, like they can't do another Smash Brothers without Sakurai. Like he's so instrumental to making those games that they don't even have anyone to replace him. Like, so it's not like, and I mentioned this before, right? With like the Metroid Prime 4, Tanabe retiring, they've groomed someone to take over that franchise. With Sakurai, they have no one, at least yet.
I feel like they have talked about it. I mean,
yeah, they probably have, but
he's been joking about retiring publicly for decades.
Oh yeah, but the man's a workaholic.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is that I don't think a lot of people understand about Sakurai is he's very well connected. He's very meticulous in terms of the things he does. He's insanely good when it comes to marketing. He has a lot of connections in a lot of different places, so he can make things happen that most people wouldn't. Like, he has a lot of clout in the industry. So if someone says, I'm making a Smash Brothers game, and they're like, oh, Sakurai's directing it? Okay, here's my IP. You know, if someone else is taking over and they haven't necessarily proven themselves, I think it's a tall order to especially get some of the third parties to just agree.
I'll give you a little bit of pushback. I'm not saying you're wrong, because I think you're right. But I also look at things like Fortnite, and so many different companies get involved with that, and it's not nearly as detailed, right? It's very basic what it is, right? It's just a skin that is just mapped on, right? And you have these skins doing all sorts of random things that have nothing to do with the IP, which is probably why that whole Samus deal fell through. Or maybe part of it. Point is, though, is that, Smash is huge. I don't think they would have that many problems getting third parties involved, but I'm sure, to your point, there's got to be some that they would lose out because a Sakurai wouldn't be involved.
I'm thinking more on the Japanese side, more so than the Western side.
Okay.
Like I think Microsoft would have no problem with saying, "Hey, you want to put Master Chief and Doom Guy in Smash? Go right ahead.
Yeah.
We'd love you to do that." Whereas,
Right.
like with certain Japanese characters,
Like,
I think there's
would we lose Cloud?
well, yeah, possibly. I mean, apparently
Yeah.
Cloud was a real mission to get him in Ultimate.
Yeah.
And Sephiroth, and like there's a whole bunch of like problems with rights. Like Sora was another one.
I'm sure that was a
Yeah, that would have been a nightmare from
mega
a
nightmare.
legal standpoint.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking more on the Japanese side. On the Western side, not at all. Yeah, they could probably get anyone they want, really.
I'm a little worried about that. Oh, but
What do you mean?
well, like, let's say, to your point, they aren't able to get as many characters on the Japanese side as they would want, so they start kind of going deeper into the well on the Western side, and some characters that probably shouldn't even be in Smash, but they do it so they can get
Like
something.
who's someone you'd be against being in Smash? Who's a Western character that you'd be like, no, this is a sin?
I mean, I don't think I'm that picky. I don't think I'm going to be like angry if it happens, but I think maybe like the sort of how we kind of see it as like a prestigious moment or like a gaming Hall of Fame thing, that kind of mystique will be dropped, to your like this is me thinking down the road, following your train of thought, like if Sakurai's not involved, then it is an issue for them to kind of still bring in a lot of these collaborations. But I don't know, Fortnite guy, that would be one that I would be a little all right.
I would be surprised if he's in the next one. Like,
I mean, I don't think it's happening. I think Sakurai's gonna be involved with the next Smash Brothers.
Well, yeah, what I mean is like
Yeah.
if even with the next Smash Brothers, I think it's a high possibility that Fortnite guy ends up in Smash, because Sakurai didn't want to put Steve in Smash. That was a Nintendo decision.
And I didn't like that one either.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
from a business standpoint, from a financial standpoint, very, very smart, right? They would have
Yeah.
made bank off that Steve DLC, and it basically broke Twitter, didn't it? When the trailer dropped. I mean, I do not play
yeah.
Minecraft at all.
No.
I was watching the trailer, like I have no idea who any of these characters are, but I knew there would be a huge bunch of people that would be really into it, and I Fortnite guy would be a big one. If we're talking about like more hardcore stuff, like I think Master Chief Doom guy makes sense. I don't think at this point, who can you add that's really going to be like mic drop moment?
I want to get to some super chats here because I feel like I've left them for a while.
Yeah, do the super chats because
yeah.
we could go on.
I
pages.
do
I'll
have
probably
a
to
lot
go
of
20 minutes. Yeah.
I do have a lot of ideas for Smash characters. But those are
Yeah.
Nintendo characters. Like I think Silex is a shoe-in personally already.
Or Ravenbeak.
You know what? Ravenbeak, Silex, that Lamorne character, just do them all. I think Silex is probably the most interesting one because he would be different. Ravenbeak is kind of like a heavier version of Samus, so that would be kind of a cheap addition. I will take it, but only if it's on top of Silex, not instead of Silex. Anyway, to the super chats.
Well, yeah, you do the super chat. I'll just quickly say this.
Sure.
Samus and the Viola will be in a Mario Kart DLC. I'm calling it.
I hope you're right.
I'm calling it. It'll happen
so
at some
cool.
point. Yeah, I'm calling it. Anyway,
that would be so cool.
Super
And then link with the Master Cycle, or it just makes too much sense.
Yep.
Attack the backlog with super chat. What's up, buddy? We were just talking about you. If rumors Prime 5 is being developed alongside 4 are true, which according to Kiwi Talks they are not, right? What would low sales mean for the production of Prime 5? Could the future be 2D Metroid? Well, I mean, I think Prime 5 has a chance of happening regardless, right? It's more so a question of when. But I mean,
I think they would do Prime 5. It would have to seriously tank, I think, for them not to do it. Because basically they've got the production pipeline in place, and I've mentioned this before. Like they had to hire a whole bunch of people for Prime 4, right? a whole bunch of new people, and they had to incorporate them into the Nintendo way of designing games, right? So they had to train them up.
Yeah.
Now, also, because of all the layoffs in the industry, you are unlikely to see people leaving Retro. Because it's too much of a gamble, right? Why would you risk it? Because Retro is probably one of the safest places to work in the entire in all of the United States.
It's got that
I would
Nintendo
recommend
safety net.
if you're working there, do not leave. Because some of the old Retro guys that I've spoken to, they're currently unemployed right now, can't find any work anywhere.
They would probably love to
6,000,
work
like,
for Retro Studios again. Or I
yeah,
don't know.
they'd love
Yeah.
to, but
Yeah.
they can't get hired. So anyway, they've trained people up on the Nintendo way of designing games. They've got the pipeline, they've got all the skill level, everything's in place from Prime 4. So it makes sense to kind of move into Prime 5. They've already experimented with the Switch 2 hardware, so I don't think it would take as long. But I still think they'll be holding off until they see how Prime 4 does. I don't think it'll be like, oh, Prime 4 is done, let's just do Prime 5 now. I'm like,
Unless it sells 10 million copies before New Year's.
oh, I could. I don't know. I mean, I'll be happy personally if it hits 5 million. I'll be happy.
Well, okay. Well, let's say it hits 5 million before the end of the year, which seems unlikely. But I mean, some games do it. Pokemon just did it in like a week, right? So, obviously Pokemon's way more popular. But if Metroid sold 5 million copies in a month, would that be enough to be like, hey, we're just gonna keep going? Like, would that be enough for them to be like, all right, this is clearly something that we can build on?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, like if they hit 10 million, 100%, they would do it as fast as they can.
Because it's also an investment, right? Like I think what they would want to see is more so, is this worthwhile, right? Which is not like, it's not necessarily a number. Like, do they see that the IP is growing? Do they see that it is bringing in more of an audience, to your point from earlier?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Dread showed that it has. Like, the Dread is the best-selling Metroid, period, right? Best-selling 2D Metroid, best-selling Metroid, period. So it is growing. Probably not at the level that some IP have, but it is growing. So it really depends on how much Prime 5 sells and what their expectations are around it. They've poured a lot of money into this. Obviously, there was the first version that got cancelled. And now there's this version. And look, I'll just say it, man. Retro is like, I'd probably say it's Nintendo's most expensive studio. You're talking about people earning anywhere between 150,000 to 175,000 on average. And you've got like 200 plus employees working on like one IP for like 6 years. Do the math. That's incredibly costly because the salaries in Japan are nowhere near as much. Obviously, when they worked with Mercury Steam in Spain, salaries in Spain are not that much either. So it's not too much of a cost. So
I just put up a very contentious poll. I'm not sure what's going to win, but I have.
Is this in the chat?
I just put in the chat now. We'll see, but it's going to be tough. I'm waiting for you to see it.
Whereabouts do I go to see it?
If you check the chat, you should see it. I think so. There should probably be a bubble in the chat.
There is a chat here. I can't see the poll. It just says tough poll. Hold on.
I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, it's not showing up. Weird. Well, just tell me. Just tell me what
okay.
the
So I put a poll. I asked, will you buy Metroid Prime 4 Beyond eventually? And I put 4 different options. Yes, 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 and yes. So I'm going to see how that does.
So 4 options with the same thing.
They all say yes. Yes. So we'll see what happens there. But I want to get to Zara Super Chat and come back to the Ocarina of Time stuff, because I feel like we haven't fully exhausted the debate.
Yeah.
We kind of agreed to something. Yeah.
Like, I can probably do about 15 more minutes. That's okay.
Yeah. Nope, that's fine.
I do have to. Yeah.
Yeah. So Taker610 with another super chat. This one's Ocarina of Time related, somewhat. Thank you for the super chat, man. I feel like a full Ocarina of Time remake has to be accompanied by a full Majora's Mask remake too. Yeah, I'd be super disappointed if that was not the case. So feel free to you want to give your take first on this?
If it's a full-blown remake, no way
Yeah.
that happens. If it's like HD ports of like the 3DS versions, yes, I think it will 100% be a thing.
So I agree with you, right? Like if it's a full remake, we're not going to see Majora's Mask remake at the same time. If it's something similar, there's a strong possibility they do both, or something simpler, is what I meant to say. But what I do think would happen is if we do get a ambitious Ocarina of Time remake, it then opens the door for an ambitious Majora's Mask remake down the road.
Yes, agreed.
So that's what I think would happen. Not both at the same time. That would be crazy, in a cool way, but definitely, yeah. Another super chat here. This could potentially throw us in a whole other direction, so I don't want to linger too long on this one. But Eric Tolato with a super chat. Thank you. Why do you as game devs have outrageous pay? I mean, I think that's just based off the economic environment. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, LA, Austin, Seattle, high cost of living, so salaries need to be higher. It's really as simple as that.
They probably don't even make that much based off their cost of living, to be honest.
Yeah, and it's just other things you have to take into account as well. Like, obviously, United States doesn't have public health care, right? So healthcare plans have to be incorporated into contracts and so forth. And then you've got commercial premises, depending on where the premise is located, will depend on the cost. Like Austin, Texas is quite expensive, which is why the pay is so high there. Cost of living is quite high. And these are all factors that play into salaries there, because people need that to survive, right? That's why Last of Us Part 2 was like a $300 million budget, because LA is so expensive.
Yeah. Here in the States, from what I understand, I live here. Minimum wage is not enough. If you work a full-time job, and let's say a little bit above minimum wage, you cannot afford to have a place by yourself. You need to have other people sharing the cost. And even then,
would you say that's everywhere in the United States, or just in the big metropolises?
I would say at least the big areas.
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, I grew up.
Like California.
I grew up in Miami, right?
Right.
I've lived in Jersey City, so Jersey City's right next to New York. So I would, that at least right now where I live, right, where there are millions of people. And what it is, it's not the most expensive city to live in, but it is one of the more expensive cities. You need multiple people working full-time jobs that are close to minimum wage to actually be able to afford a home. So I feel like, if a developer is only making $50,000, $60,000 a year, depending on where they're living, might be kind of hard to, be able to afford something on your own. So while it may seem outrageous outside the country, it might not even be enough in some cases. So, yeah.
Wow. I mean, I have quite a few American friends here, and they mentioned that healthcare plans are the thing that really hits you, besides rent and stuff, right? Depending on what type of healthcare plan especially if you're solo, you're a contractor or you're self-employed or something where you're not working for a company where there's no healthcare plan. I don't know what your healthcare plan's like. I'm not saying you should tell me, but I'm wondering does that eat into the cost as well in terms of the bills that you have to pay, whether it's weekly or monthly?
That's a whole other thing.
we don't have to go down there.
This starts turning this to a non-gaming conversation. So let's.
Yeah.
let's leave it at that for now. But let me just tell you that I drink cranberry juice and eat apples and play sports. But
Wow.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll stop there.
We'll stop there.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
Retro Studios is expensive. There you go.
Yeah.
For that reason. Yep.
Yeah. But coming back to, because I know we got like 5-10 minutes. When you got to go, just let me know, and I plan on wrapping up soon, regardless. So
okay.
It seems like we're in agreement that something Ocarina of Time seems very likely, right? I mean, really, the sticking point is just how big it is, you know. And you know, I understand what you're saying, that there's a cost. This is going to take time. Who's the team? But I don't think we're going to know the team, right? Like, Nintendo keeps that secret, and there can be others involved. We don't know how long they would have been working on this. And you know, I look at, it's not like Nintendo doesn't do ambitious, you know, reworkings. They do, right? They also don't in the case of Galaxy 1 and 2, like, admittedly. But you look at, Metroid Prime Remastered did happen. Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, the first one, from a visual perspective, was essentially reworking the entire game to look like a modern Xenoblade. They added a whole other campaign and a variety of quality of life updates. Like, we see Nintendo have pretty ambitious revisitings of games, right? Now, I do think this would probably be their most ambitious, right? But it's also Zelda, and it would be for the movie or the 40th anniversary, so I think it would be fitting. And even if you're right and it only sells 10 million, probably still going to make them a lot of money. And I mean, honestly, I think it would do better than that. But, you know, even then, that's still really good. And then,
they'd make a ton of money off it. 100%. I'm not saying they won't. I'm just saying, if I put myself in the developer's shoes, would they want to do that? Would the Zelda team want to do that? Because they've just started this new thing, this new way of how Zelda operates, like this open air. They would probably want to consider moving that in that direction, as opposed to going back to the linear way and trying to present it in a new way for modern fans to get like.
Sure.
Because I feel like the new Zelda fans just want the open world model. So I don't think as many people that played like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom would necessarily jump into Ocarina of Time.
So this is my opinion. I don't think people necessarily want a massive open world exactly as it is in Breath and Tears. I think just people want a really fun, exciting adventure where there's a great sense of freedom. And that can be handled in different ways. I do think ultimately the future Zelda is open air. I'm not disputing
I agree.
that, right?
They make way too much money from it.
And
it's been such a monumental success that there's no way they would deviate from it. I'd be very surprised if they went back to the old model. And you got to remember, Breath of the Wild is actually based on the original Legend of Zelda,
which is open world.
Open world,
like
right?
The first open world game or something. Yeah,
exactly. Like Ocarina of Time actually changed the model, and then people now consider that the default model, but it actually isn't the default model.
Yeah, it's not it's actually not OG Zelda. Like, there's a Link to the Past and the Ocarina of Time, and like and that actually kind of grew stale after a little bit. And they tried changing conventions a lot with Skyward Sword. They kind of doubled down on that format more so, and then they went the opposite direction for Breath of the Wild. And I think they're all great games, but you know, Skyward Sword was not that successful. I think some of that had to do with timing.
Yeah, I wasn't a huge fan of Skyward Sword. I love the dungeons in Skyward Sword, but I think one of the problems I have with Zelda post Ocarina of Time up until Breath of the Wild is increasingly the intros got more and more bloated,
too long,
like extremely boring, extremely. You gotta make
it interesting.
Yeah, and tutorials, like introductions, they're actually very hard to get right. And like post Ocarina of Time,
perfect, and I feel like it's maybe arguably one of the best tutorials in gaming
Breath
history.
of the Wild. Yeah, I agree, 100%. Like, you start the game, bang, in it, and like even when you finish what is supposed to be the tutorial area, you're like, oh my god, that was just the tutorial,
right?
Right, when you get the paraglider, you're like, oh my gosh,
yeah. And it opens up the world. It's such a cool experience. But and listen, I certainly I'm unsure about to what level they would be doing this. I think that there is room to kind of expand on some of the gameplay, change some things around to help it feel more modern.
Yep.
From an open perspective, like we look at Echoes of Wisdom, it actually was a little bit of a marriage of both formats. And I actually think that moving forward, the future of Zelda, whatever it is, I mean, in terms of new stuff, like, yes, it's going to be open air, but they are going to find ways to incorporate prior Zelda concepts as well, interchangeably. Like, it's not always going to be the same things. So I actually think that with Tears of the Kingdom, they did a better job of the dungeons and bringing
Yep.
back more unique bosses and telling the
Agreed.
story, things that people missed from prior Zelda games. And so I think they're probably going to improve upon that more so with the next one. And I also think that with Breath of the Wild, there was a lot of intent to really deviate from everything. That was kind of like the mission, right? To deviate from the prior format. Moving forward, while I do think it's going to be different, they're not going to be as hard pressed to make sure they're like, oh, no. We used to do that in the past. We're not going to do that, right? Like that was kind of like a philosophy they had in Breath, right? To make sure that it was not like those other games. In the future, they're going to be a little bit more open to incorporating more elements. So I do think future Zelda games, there'll be a little bit less contention. I mean, there's always going to be contention no matter what happens. There's always contention, and I'm sure there'll be a new thing to argue about in the future. I think I wouldn't say that the past has been abandoned, but it's definitely not going to be the same.
No. I'll wrap up at this because I do have to go.
Yeah,
but I'll say
sure.
this: as much as people like to say Nintendo's all about nostalgia, they don't really operate that way. What they do is they come up with unique mechanics. They try and figure out what they want the game to be. And then usually what they do is they put nostalgia at the top, right? It's like the icing on the cake.
Sure.
Donkey Kong Bonanza is like a perfect point. I won't spoil it for anyone, but you know what I'm talking about with like the final act of that game, right?
I mean, even in the direct, you can see it there. But yes, to your point, that even further.
Yeah. But like they worked out with like the destructible terrain. They focused on that mechanic, the animal transformations, like the climbing, all that sort of stuff. Like they didn't actually incorporate a lot of the nostalgic stuff. Like they didn't use a lot of stuff with the barrels. I mean, there was nostalgic stuff in terms of like the 2D levels and stuff.
Yeah.
But they don't really hit you hard with the nostalgia until near the end. Yeah. By the way, I am planning a review of Donkey Kong Bonanza with the devs of Donkey Kong Country Returns and Tropical Freeze. I'm just waiting for them to finish the game so we can actually do it. So look out for that.
Yeah. Guys, make sure to check out his channel. It is linked in the description below. And I'll just
fun, man.
Yeah, dude. We'll see obviously what happens. Whatever it is they're doing, I think it's gonna be cool. Oh, the thing I want to mention. So there's a rumor that there's going to be a new Zelda Lego set in March, and it's for Ocarina of Time. It's based off Link vs. Ganondorf. And I'll just say when it comes to these Lego leaks, they tend to be true. So obviously we'll see, but yeah.
Well, then there's more of a chance of an Ocarina of Time remaster or remake or something next year.
Remaster make.
Yeah, remaster make. Well, we'll see next year. I'll be interested to like revisit this conversation.
Yeah.
Because one of us is going to take an L.
Yeah. I mean, we actually
we both take an L.
Right, because what if there's nothing? What if it's just I don't know, a Zelda
They just do nothing for the 40th anniversary. They just do nothing at all. And then we're both like, okay.
I want to be clear though. I'm not saying for sure it's for the 40th anniversary. I just think
you just think it's in the pipeline somewhere. Okay. Gotcha.
I think it's in the pipeline, and I think a 40th anniversary is like an obvious possibility, So we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Well, look, it's been fun. Thanks so much for inviting me back on. As always, keep doing your thing. As always, thanks to the chat. Check out my channel. I will have more interviews in the future. And stuff in terms of stuff that's Nintendo related. Obviously, there's the Donkey Kong Bonanza review. I've got my presentation from the GDC that releases on Saturday. And in January, probably, I will be doing a review of Metroid Prime 4 with the OG Metroid Prime devs as well. There are some possible Nintendo reviews that I'm doing as well. I'm speaking with a Japanese person that will potentially be a translator for some interviews with people from Japan, maybe Nintendo related. That's all I can say at this point. But there is stuff going on in the background. Aww. Cute.
Look at the camera, Ruby. She's tired.
All right, everyone. I got to get going.
All right,
Much love.
Have a
Thanks
good night.
again.
Yeah,
See
thanks
ya.
for coming by. We'll talk soon.
Yeah, sounds good.
Bye.
Bye.
So yeah, guys, make sure to check out Kiwi Talks. Again, his channel is linked in the description below. Yeah, I'm gonna wrap up. Just checking with the chat for a little bit here. I showed Ruby. Having hope your reminder worked. I saw. I was like, oh, let me get Ruby real quick, and there we go. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Definitely, I feel like we could have gone on more for sure. Did I even get to this point? But a point that I wanted to make. It's not like this doesn't win the argument. It's just kind of like, listen, if Capcom could give us a Resident Evil 4 remake, right? If Square Enix can give us a Final Fantasy remake, if Bethesda can give us an Oblivion remake, like why can't Nintendo give us an Ocarina of Time remake? I don't see why they. I think the answer is they can. And there's still mainline games that are also in the works, right? Like it's not like there isn't a new Elder Scrolls in the works. It's not like there aren't new Final Fantasies coming out. It's not like there aren't new Resident Evils coming out. There are, right? We're getting both. So this is actually kind of a new trend. I do think that it's absolutely in the cards. Just question is Nintendo decide it's worth it? I think it's worth it. We've talked about the evidence before. You have the Lego sets, you have the cross promotion stuff, the 40th anniversary, the Onuma teases. As Wilberforce says, Oblivion is still just a remaster technically, but listen, even if so, I would be thrilled to see Ocarina of Time enhanced visually to look like a modern game. And so if that's just technically a remaster, I mean, kind of like Metroid Prime Remastered, right? That's another one. I would be thrilled to see that. I would love to see the visuals. Now, I do think some quality of life updates would be needed. And so, that's kind of where we have a little bit more of a debate on just how much changes they do from a quality of life perspective and a gameplay perspective, how much would be adjusted. And I think there's a lot of room there. Like, are we talking about like Resident Evil 4 remake where there's like just straight up new content, and it's structured like a new game, like a lot of the new games are, or is it, basically like Metroid Prime Remastered where the bones of it are literally the same, and it's basically a nice facelift with some subtle quality of life updates like motion controls and stuff. The interesting part is that we do have Ocarina of Time 3D that did incorporate a lot of those quality of life updates already. I do think that there's a lot they could do to Ocarina of Time, and there's some basic stuff, like 60 frames per second, right? A fully controllable camera, like those things would be nice, but like, are we going to have like a jump button, for example? Do they reimagine the dungeons? And so there's a lot more potential for more. I think about the whole Hyrule Warriors user imprisonment angle. I feel like there's like, we've talked about this stuff. I can go on and on. But we'll see what happens. Yeah. Anyway, to end this poll, they got 30 votes. 90% said yes, 3% said yes, 3% said yes, 3% said yes. Where the other 1% is, well, apparently it went to another yes. So there you go. Yeah. Tardigrade 9343 here says, my biggest fear is if they meddle with the art style in a potential remaster remake. I'd love them to simply being those official art concept arts to life. Bring those official concept arts to life. Yeah, those are really cool. I mean, I think I'm using one for this video's thumbnail. Something I didn't mention, I thought we would get to it, but like the whole Nash Wheater rumor of there being an artistic redesign for the Ocarina of Time remake, which implies that there's some sort of visual facelift there. Doesn't imply gameplay changes though. So yeah, Rancor. The poll always there's always like a weird rounding issue. I don't know why it always does that, but it does. So like it still had 30 votes. Nothing changed from a vote perspective when I ended it. It just added that percentage. At least it's correct. Like it fits a perfect 100%, right? It does in the chat, but when it was live, it was stuck at 99%. There was 1% unaccounted for. Yeah. Anyways, everyone, I hope you guys enjoyed the conversation. Got stuff to do, but videos will be coming. I'll see y'all soon. Take care.